order. And today that's going to be the knock on the table for the gavel. I welcome everybody here today, and it's exciting that this is our 2019 budget retreat. At this time, I'd like to welcome to our new Parks and Rec Director. I welcome you aboard and glad you could be here for today's work. And also Mayor Pro Tem Ted Moon from Fayetteville City Council is here, and Roger Mullen is here representing the Fayetteville Observer. At this time, if you will, all please rise for our invocation and be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
It's you. I get that. Father, again, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here to do the town's business. We ask that you be with us and help us make the right decisions for the citizens of our town. We ask that you watch over and bless all of our first responders, our firefighters, and our police officers. Thank you for the Parks and Rec Director, and we pray that our Parks and Rec will continue to go in the right direction. We thank you for the guests that's here today. We pray that you watch over us on the way home, especially out this dirt road. We'll never fail to give you the praise. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Okay, today is the town charter day, and I thought it was only appropriate that we bring a copy of the charter. This was established, of course, in 1891, so it's pretty old right now. The main reason for bringing this to you is so that you can see a little bit about what we were like and what as far as when we first began. And I would like you, if you haven't, to take the opportunity. We won't go over this because we've got so many items on our agenda. But the main thing is so that you can understand, what our roles were and what we've added to this through our ordinances and policies and amendments over time. And of course, I think we have even the mayor's town commissioner's responsibilities, the mayor pro tem, meetings, talks about ordinances and resolutions, talks about how we're elected, and that, the main thing is this is something that we recognize today that we do have a town charter. And the other thing about this is that you'll notice that it says when it was ratified, it was in June 1981. So we've had this particular charter and everything that goes in this. Of course, all the changes that are made, all the ordinances, all the other things and amendments and things that we've added, those are not included in this. This is just what the original charter looked like. And again, this is our town charter day today. Okay? Next thing is, if you look on the item 2, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Holland and probably Ms. Adams chipping in. And this is reference to our capital improvement plan for 2019.
Okay, Melissa's going to do something real quick.
Yeah.
And we'll go over the CIP.
I'm just gonna, I know that you've introduced Mr. LaMarco Morrison, our new Parks and Rec Director, and thank you very much for that. And I think he's met everyone, maybe except for the exception of perhaps maybe Beth. But I just want to give a little brief overview before we continue so that y'all kind of know his experience. And but he, like we said this morning, he's coming from the city of Greenville. He's got over 23 years of experience in the design and construction industry with a comprehensive background in project management, landscape architecture, contract administration, construction management, site development, cost estimating, budget management, community meetings facilitation, agenda items preparation, grant proposals and management, and municipal and private agreements. He has been with the city of Greenville since 2008, and I understand that they are a little unhappy about us taking him away from them. But I think, we're extremely lucky and we're extremely excited for LaMarco to get started. He is a graduate of Pine Forest Senior High. And he's also been to Parks and Rec Director School in Wheeling, West Virginia. And he's got a BS in Landscape Architecture. And also from North Carolina A&T State University, a degree in Construction Management. So, welcome, LaMarco. We look forward to working with you, and thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Holland,
Okay.
to Drew Holland,
Okay.
and I'll chime in as necessary.
Everybody should have a copy of the new revised CIP. And what you have here is, now, mind you, we've had a couple of changes already, because I put this together in January, and there were a few updates in February, but then again, this is a working document. Pretty much, it's not set in stone, the things that are in here, it's just a guide and plan for what we want to look forward to doing. So it's a list of all the major projects that we have for the next 5 years. It does have a column of what we anticipate funding in the budget coming up next year, the 1920 fiscal year budget. So you have your copy. Several things that are, I guess, new from last year's. Of course, the last CIP that we got was the first one that we've had for the town. And so that one we've really had for about a year and a half now. So now that we're kind of had the first one scheduled, every year in January we'll be updating this and presenting it to y'all at the budget retreat. So, some of the changes that are in here that were not in last year's, we did add one under administration for a downtown Trade Street improvement plan. We've talked about it for years and years, doing some improvements. I've got it just in here as an estimate, $200,000 a year 2021. That doesn't mean we're going to do it that year, but when we get to the point, it's at least on the radar. We need to start looking towards planning for that, getting a design, getting what we want to happen. So that is a new one in here now. Another new one that we've added. We've got some different vehicles and large equipment that we're doing. We need some new garbage trucks for yard waste. We've added those in here, an Uncle Boom truck. Neither of those are in next year's budget, but in the following years. We did add the ADA compliance, which we'll be talking about today as one of our topics. So that is in the CIP now. What else is new? We made changes to the lake park and the golf course, because now the lake park is pretty much the bulkhead only and not the other amenities that were there. And then we added the potential for the golf course part-if grant based on some discussion that we'll be having later. But those are the major changes. Right, and one thing that's not in here that I was going to add it, but I waited because of the time frame. This CIP is through the year 2023. So I know one of our discussion points is going to be the substations for the police and fire station. But really, if we build the police and fire station now, that's kind of 5 years out from that point. So that puts us in the 2024 time frame. So that's the only reason that it's not in here. It could move up, it could move back. But if you're wondering, where's the substations? If you haven't forgotten about them, and we're not, intentionally leaving them out, but that's the reason that they're not listed here specifically. So, you have your copies. If you have any questions about any of the projects or timing of this, we can make changes, but really, this is just a guide. This is not an approved plan that this is what we're actually doing. It's a guide for us to plan. So that's the CIP. Any questions that y'all might have? Okay, if not,
Move on.
we'll move on to tab number 3. All right, tab 3. Just a quick financial update. Where we are right now, I get the estimates from the county as far as property tax for next year. The preliminary property tax increase from this year to next year right now is about 3.12%. So 1 cent a tax, as of now, the estimate for next year is $117,629. If you look at the third page in, past the cover page, you'll see last year's. That's the side-by-side comparison of 1819 to 1920. So if you look at kind of, if these were sentences, maybe the third bullet point down, value of 1 cent at town's collection rate. The current year, 1 cent a tax equals $114,000. Next year, right now, the estimate is $117,629. If you look at the top bullet point, the tax itself, the current year, we budgeted 4.714. Next year, the estimate is 4.877, an increase of just about 3.5%. Actual dollar increase is about almost $164,000 from 1 year to the next. It'd be nice if that number was in the $300,000 range, but you know, this is more. Last year at this same time, we were in the $87,000 in the preliminary estimate. So I'm hoping this number, by the time we get the final adjustment, that it'll be a little bit higher than this. Motor vehicle taxes, not a lot of increase there, but it did increase, which is good, about $7,200. And then the vehicle decal fees, that one's not usually a huge one there, about $690. And then the Parks and Rec tax is the 5 cents that we add, and I calculate that based on the 1 cent estimate. So you take the value of 1 cent, the 117, times the $5, and that gives us about $588,000 for the Parks and Rec tax. So these are the preliminary estimates for next year for budgeting. The next sheet, if you look, is our current debt. I know the numbers are small, it's hard to read to fit everything onto the page. But if you look at mainly where it says the total general fund, about right in the middle of the page, you see that's the total debt for the year. And it is, I'm probably gonna have to update my glasses prescription, about $922,000. If you see next year, it drops off some. We pay off the debt, and then the year after that, it drops even more, and then it significantly drops about 5 years from now. So what this shows is we can take on the new debt that we're planning to for the Public Safety Center. We usually have the capacity in our current budget and revenues that we can handle about $1 million worth of debt. This year it's 922. We can roughly handle about $1 million.
Drew,
So when we do the
Drew, can I ask a question? On the public safety building, what kind of financing term would we get on that?
if you look at the next page after
Yes,
this, I've got an
he's
estimate
covering it.
for the public safety facility
Okay.
and kind of a plan, a scenario of months and years. So if we were to do a 30-year loan at 4% for $12 million, this is roughly what we'd be looking at. About a total payout just under $700,000. I believe that says 693.
Yeah.
So if we get the plans completed in December of this year, actually I'm going to go into that more with the public safety facility update. Then the first loan payment would be in August of 2022. So if you look at the previous page,
Oh, you've got 21.
no, the payment.
Oh, the
The
payment.
loan would
Okay,
begin
loan
there. Your
begins.
first payment is
would be
the next year
got
after
it,
that.
Sorry.
That's all right. So August of 2022, if you look at that debt schedule, 3 years out from now, our total debt is 765. So we would add that. So for just a couple of years, we're going to be over that $1 million threshold where we currently have. But hopefully, we'll have some budget growth between now and then, and we can cover that. And then you see how debt drops off
In
for after
25,
that. So we
yeah.
can totally make that payment and take that debt in without any major significant additions to the budget. That's the plan.
Do we have construction period interest? A lot of buildings being,
What was that
a
again?
lot of buildings in construction, do we have construction period interest that we have to pay? Do we have to pay interest on the construction?
Yes,
line?
what we'll have to do when we get the original loan, we'll get like a construction loan.
Right.
And doing it through USDA, they don't do construction loans. So we'll be getting a loan through a bank that USDA is affiliated with for the first like 2.5 years. And then once construction is over and that's converted to the actual loan that we're going to be paying off, then it will convert to the actual USDA loan, and then we'll start paying it off from there. But that construction loan, it'll be done on a drawdown basis, so we will only be paying interest on what we've drawn down for the construction. So we'll be doing that reimbursed, kind of like a reimbursement style. We'll have the funds available. Just say it's the $12 million, and the first 3 months it's just going to be a lot of engineering, design, and grading, that sort of thing. So it's not going to be a lot coming out of that. And then towards the end of it, when we're actually reimbursing ourselves for the actual construction contract, then we'll be taking the significant dollars out. So we won't even take the full 12 million out until towards the end of that project. So that'll save us in some interest costs.
You know exactly what the construction period interest is and then the debt service though.
We won't know that until we bid it out. Right now I'm using 4%. I asked USDA, what's your current rate? And they say it ranges anywhere from 3.8 to 4.25. So I just said, well, I'll just use 4 for now as an estimate. So, but, rates could change, a lot in the next couple of years. So, but this is, again, just the estimate. This is what we're basing our planning.
And the long-term financing would be a fixed rate.
What's that?
The long-term financing would be a fixed rate.
Yes, it would be a fixed rate, definitely. And they said they can go up to 35 years if need be. We should qualify for that. I just based it on 30. So if we get to the point that we're doing the loan and we see that, say that's 693, or say the rate goes up, say it is 4.25 instead of 4%, well then we might need to add a few years to help us with that payment. I'd rather not do that, but we have that option.
Does the rate go up if you get it for 5 years?
Yeah, I think 35 is about as far as they can go.
Does the rate go up?
Oh, no.
No.
It'd
No.
still be the full term of the loan.
Okay.
Any questions there? I did give you the second page in that section. We went over this last year. You've got the flow chart there of when we're talking about growth of the town and how that works. Everything works together. So when we're looking at the tax rate and how much we're going to get next year, it all, builds off of different things. So when we do, we're going to be talking at the end of the day on some strategic planning, and that's going to tie into this schedule a little bit. Is how much we plan ahead, how much we're ready for different growth type scenarios, whether it's residential or commercial, or at some point we get that 295 bypass out there, and we might have some industrial interest in the town. We need to be ready for that. So we're going to be talking some about that in the last section of the day today. But be familiar with this chart and how that works with growth. And so if we want to start seeing a $300,000 growth in property taxes each year, or even $500,000, once we start hitting those types of thresholds, then we can start talking about, okay, how much each year do we want to put back in reserve accounts for, say, like the future infrastructure at the golf course property? How much do we want to set in reserve accounts for future public safety improvements? How much do we want to set in reserves for street and sidewalk improvements? That way, going forward, we don't need to talk about having so much long-term debt. We can do a shorter-term debt, pay it off sooner. We'd still have debt because you don't want to use all your cash. Even though you might have it in reserves, you can use cash for smaller projects, but the larger ones, you'd still incur that debt, but you can pay it off a whole lot easier. You can do a shorter term and pay it off sooner than later. So that's the goal of what we'd like to see moving forward with the town's growth and the budget. Any questions of the financial update?
Drew,
All right, moving right along.
Commissioner Blake has
Oh.
a question.
I do have a question on a previous page, sidewalks around the schools. Is DOT planning on any road construction in those areas? And will they possibly be doing the sidewalks?
Right. If DOT does do improvements, when we talked to them at their meeting at the school the other day, they brought up the idea of when they do the widening on Gulfview and Rockfish, that whole loop around Town Hall in that area. More than likely, they will have funds to do another 80-20 partnership with the town to sidewalk the whole area. They'll replace the sidewalks 100%, what's currently there. But as far as any new sidewalk that doesn't currently exist, they could do the same 80-20 partnership that they've done on Rockfish and on Johnson. I would assume that if they do any type of road improvements by the school, if we ask or they bring it up, another 80-20, anytime you get an 80-20, that's a perfect deal for the town to jump in and get some help with these sidewalks. But on the DOT roads especially, it's their road, but we want sidewalks there. So if they pay 80% of it, that's a good deal. But
I think
right
sidewalks.
now, I haven't seen any plans for what they're planning to do near the schools.
I like what I read there for sidewalks in the areas of all schools. I think that, myself, I think that we owe that to our kids that go to our public schools in Hope Mills. But if DOT will put them in there, let's let the money come out of the big account. Let's pay what we have to pay.
Right. We've got the CIP, all the sidewalk projects for all the schools. So if they ever bring up anything about widening in that area, that's something we'll definitely look into and say, yeah, let's team up on this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, public safety facility. I went over a little bit with the, and you've got a picture of the same layout that was presented to us last time. You've got the schematic of the outside and then the land, what it's going to look like on the property and how it fits in. But the schedule that we're looking at right now, between talking with the architect and the folks at USDA, it looks like the construction drawings could be finished sometime this winter, probably, well, maybe late fall, early winter, November, December timeframe of this year. Once the construction drawings are complete, then we can get ready to set it out for bid, and that's when we'll know the actual cost of what it's going to be. We're estimating in the 12 million range. But once we set it out for bid, then we'll know the actual cost, and then at that time we can start working with USDA. You know, just say the bids come in at 13. Well, then that's when we're going to have to sit back down with USDA. We may have to do 35 years instead of 30, that sort of thing. Hopefully the bids will come in favorably, but you never know until you get to that point. The other thing we can do with the construction drawings, if the bids come in a little high, we can do some value engineering to bring that cost down a little bit, or set up some things where there's some areas that we can actually renovate or complete in the future. Because we're building this building to last at least another 50 years, you know, past when we'll be worried about a lot of this stuff. But it could be that there's portions of the building that, you know, is for future growth. We don't need to finish that right now. We can scale that back, just have it as some empty growth space, and then finish it in the future just to get the cost down. But we won't know that until we get there. So if we bid it out this winter, we can possibly start construction February of next year, February of 2020. And if it takes, you know, 18 months to 2 years to finish the building, then that puts us in the 2021-22 timeframe. And then, you know, the loan will transfer over to the actual loan that we start paying off, and we go from there. So, but we're thinking right now 18-month construction time. And, but that's the plan for construction. That's next.
Drew, may I
Okay.
ask a question? May I ask a question?
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Are our existing buildings going to be able to be used while this is construction going
The
on?
fire station will be. They'll be able to use the rear entrance and exit of the fire station during this construction time. The front will not be, because that's where a majority of the construction is going to be happening.
Or are we going to house the police department?
Okay, the police station
next.
is the next thing I'm going to
That's
get
next.
to.
Okay,
We will have to find a temporary location for the police station. Myself and the police chief have been looking, the last 3 months?
Pretty much, yeah.
Probably about the last 3 months for a location of the temporary police station. Because what's going to happen with the current police station is the area where that's sitting right now, if you look at the, there we go. If you look at this here, there's the current fire station, here's the current police station. This is the new building, okay? So when they're doing construction on this, the fire will be able to go out the back. The rest of this is gonna be all fenced in. The current police station, where this area is right now, that's gonna have to be the staging area for the new building. Because we can't put it, there's nowhere else to put the staging area for this. So we are gonna have to move that building before the construction begins, because this will be the staging area. Once this building is done, and fire's completely moved out of their building, then they'll tear this one down, and then they'll do what will be phase 2 of the project, all the parking and everything in the rear of the building. So we've been looking for a temporary location for the police station. We looked at 3 different sites in town. One of the things that made it difficult is the police station has to have this fiber line to the sheriff's department. And there's only 2 fiber lines in town. One goes down Main Street, one goes up Camden Road to Rockfish, and then it goes to Stony Point Fire Station. The line that they use now comes down Main Street, goes to the library, and they're tied in with the line that connects the library to their building. There's another line that goes to the water tower, and that continues the Main Street line. So they have to be hooked into this fiber line. The fiber line is maintained, I don't know why, but it's maintained by PWC. So when I contacted PWC to find out where the closest lines are, they said that's where it was. So we concentrated in our search into areas that would include where that fiber line already exists. The first thing we looked at was the bank at Trademore, where the BB&T was. We contacted the real estate company. They said, actually, we've just rented it out, or we've just sold it to a real estate company. That would have been perfect. And then we looked at what was the Capital Bank by the Glowstone. They were not interested in leasing. They said, we just want to sell it. It's like, well, we don't want to buy it, but I can guarantee you we'll lease it for 3 years. And they were not interested in any type of lease. And then about a month after we contacted them, then they sold it to that real estate company that's in it now. So we kept our eyes open looking for something else. And then we found a vacant piece of property South Main Street, that the corner of South Main and Church. And we thought there's a warehouse there, but we wouldn't use the warehouse except for storage, but it had a large vacant area. If we were to use that, we would have to bring in mobile units and lease those. So not only would we be paying a lease for the property, we'd be paying a lease for mobile units that need to be set up on the property. And then there's no fiber line in that area whatsoever. So it'd be a major cost just to get the fiber line to that end of town. So we kept that in our pocket and kept looking for something else. A piece of property came up right on Main Street next to our parking lots, kind of across from where the new, what's it called, Surge Jumping Place, right across from that shopping center, right on Main Street. It's where the Crossings had their office, and there was a medical office there for a while. That building is empty. We looked at it. The location was perfect. We could use one of our town lots for the police station. But once we started looking at the building, the upfit on that building, if you were to go in it, it needs a lot of repair. And we would be upfitting a building that we're only going to lease for 3 years. Location was perfect, and the fiber line was pretty close, but the building itself is in need of major repairs. It's got water damage. There's
mold
yeah,
issues.
there's a lot of problems with that building. They're going to have a tough time selling it. But they were willing to lease it for us. So then we kept looking and found out that the Ace Hardware was closing. And so I contacted the owner and asked him what would they be doing with the building after they closed. And he was trying to sell the business. He didn't have any interest in it, but if he said he found somebody that would buy the inventory, he could have it empty, and that could be a possible option. So he did find a buyer for the inventory. They've got it all cleaned out. The chief and I went and looked at it. It's perfect for what they need. The fiber line that's closest to that area is actually, and PwC didn't tell me this originally, the corner where the, what's the bank there at the corner across from the lake?
I don't know.
First Citizens.
First Citizens.
First Citizens.
For citizens, yeah.
That box there at that corner,
Is-
they said there's a fiber line that stops right there. I said, well, you didn't tell me this, 2 months ago when I was asking. They said, well, they look, there's a line that stops right there. We would have to extend that line to the Ace Hardware, which we're working on that. We have a cost estimate for it, and the chief says the building is pretty much just empty, and we can set up cubicles and dividers, perfect for a temporary location. We're looking at a 3-year lease. We've met with the owners. They're excited if we're able to do this. So that lease contract will be coming to you at the next council meeting to give the manager authority. We will start the lease in May, but not spend any major funds until next budget year, till July, because we don't have funds currently budgeted for this at this point. They didn't want to wait till July to start the lease because then they've got an empty building for 3 months. So we did work it out with them that they could wait till May before they originally wanted to start leasing it in April, but I didn't need it. We don't need it that soon. So we'll just lease the building. We'll have access to it. And I don't know if Chief, if you want to say anything about the building or.
No, other than the options that we've been able to find in town are very limited. So this one is pretty much, once he got his inventory out of there, pretty much a blank canvas. We can go ahead and set it up pretty much however we need. It's got a good parking area for vehicles. It's centrally located. There will be some upfitting to it, nothing to the scale of what we looked at the building that was across from the SERV.
Yeah.
So this will be pretty good. We're going to set it up if everything works out. And whenever it's time for us to vacate, it'll be easy to break down and leave it pretty much in the same state we found it.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
what's the entry process there? Is going to have problem with traffic going in and out? And I know you'll have a fenced-in lot there.
It's got 2 entrances. It actually has an
Back.
entrance exit on the back side. So, of course, in the afternoon's traffic there is going to be tough. But if you've noticed any more on Rockfish Road in front of the current PD, it's a little tough. So this one, you could actually go back, I believe it's DeBerry, and exit off of there and hit Trade Street. So it shouldn't be as tough as that.
Okay, what do we have as far as construction to the building for us to have private entry? You had to put a new door on the parking lot side?
There's currently a door there, sir.
Is it?
But basically,
Key
what we're going
control
to do, if everything works out and we can sign the lease, I've already got my staff working on temporary floor plans for it. Because basically, right now, it's just a big empty building. So my staff, we've already toured it a couple of times. They're working on a floor plan to put, because there's some things we have to upfit it for to make us compliant with state law. Your records, your property, firearms, stuff like that. You have to have secure areas for anytime you're dealing with juveniles. They can't be associated with anybody. And so that's stuff like that. Staff's going to get together, and they're actually already working on it. Once we get a floor plan, we're going to start getting contract bids to see what a cost would be. And our goal is to include a good, solid estimate for upfitting the building with this year's current budget.
How old is that building now? Miss Warner, do you remember? It's not very old, is it?
It's not very old.
2001, 2002.
It's not a real old building, so there shouldn't be too much
Well, yeah. And
repairs.
nothing's going to be too elaborate with it, but there are some things, like I said, that we have to be compliant with state law. Because remember, you're taking a functioning police department and you're actually setting it up somewhere else. So the records have to be maintained securely, your records vaults, your property vaults, you have weapons, drugs, that kind of stuff. Those all have to be secured. We'll have to put cameras on it, alarms, stuff like that. But with the building being in such a blank canvas, so to speak, you're not having to worry about any demolition or knocking out walls or anything like that. Anybody that's ever been in the military on a deployment, you go in and you set up these big elaborate operating facilities, and whenever you're done, you can break them down. And it's gonna be something similar to that. You know, a lot of woodwork, a lot of cubicles. We'll have to run some networking infrastructure just to keep the business going. But I don't anticipate it being anything super elaborate.
So some of the material that comes out of that, can we use inside the new
No.
police facility? Okay.
There are some things we want to test run with that one, like the key card entry exit stuff, to see if there's anything we need to work out with that, because that's going to be used pretty prevalently on the new facility, which if you've ever been down to the hospital, Cape Fear, and you've seen their staff, they walk up to the door, they put their little box of card on there. It's a perfect way to control who comes and goes with your building, keep record of who comes and goes with your building. And if somebody leaves, you just go into a computer and take them out, and they can't get it.
We talked about doing that at town hall.
Right.
one
It's
time.
a
Yeah.
good system, because right now, if somebody leaves your facility, maybe good or not good terms, you have to go in there, you gotta change locks, you gotta change codes. At a key card facility, you just go into a computer, hit a button.
Change the number.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you,
Cancel
sir,
that key
appreciate
card
it.
and
Yeah.
You don't have to get keys back or anything,
No,
you just cancel that
It's
key card, they don't have access anymore.
Drew, I have a couple questions. One, what's the projected lease amount?
Right now, it's $5,000 a month for the lease. If we have to extend it past the 3 years, it goes up a little bit. If we had asked them to start the lease in July, they were going to ask for a higher amount to make up for that difference of the 3 months that it would be empty. But we just worked out to start in May instead of April to save that month's worth of lease. The other building that we were looking at on Main Street, that was going to be probably a little bit more than that. As far as the monthly lease, we never did get to where we had settled on the amount, but the rate range that they gave me started at $5,000 and went to like $6,400. So it would have at least been that much, if not more. The banks that we looked at would have actually been more than that, and the vacant property with leasing the property and having to lease a temporary structure on it would have wound up being more than $5,000 as well. We never looked at the actual cost, but just getting estimates of what it would have cost, it was going to be more than $5,000. So actually, as it turns out, of all the options we looked at, this was the least of all of them.
The property across from the Surge, that wasn't an option for lease or purchase?
The building on Main Street across from the Surge was either lease or purchase.
Yeah.
And we looked at the potential of a purchase for that building since it's adjacent to our park property and our parking lots.
Mhm.
We thought this could be a great opportunity
Right.
to invest in a building
Yeah.
and
I
go
thought so.
ahead. But once we got in it, and it needs a lot of work, they would have to come down on that price significantly for us to look at any type of purchase.
Was that negotiable?
It is negotiable, but we didn't get to that point for a temporary use for the police station, with what we would have to do to upfit that building just to use it to begin with. It would take more months than what we need. They would be getting in too late to be able to get out of their building in time for the construction. It still could be an option that we could buy that building in the future and use for some type of Parks and Rec purpose or something there on Main Street, classrooms or whatever. But Don, I don't know if you mind making some comments on the building itself. Don and Ray, you might want to as well. They looked at the building from an inspection standpoint, and it needs a lot of work.
Square footage is a lot.
It's that location that's key.
The location is very
That
key,
is very,
but it's
very
still for
key
sale, and I think he's going to have a
investment
hard
for the
time
town.
selling that building.
That's where I'm going with this. That location is a very key investment
It is.
because of where it's situated and how it hooks up.
We talked about
on the
that.
backside. I know we have.
Yeah.
What's the market price of it right now?
They won't, it's listed on the website at, I believe, 550,000. He told me, the owner would like to at least get $500,000, but then he said that was negotiable. So, right now, I think, you know, $500,000 or less, you know, if we got into talks with them.
That's it.
But you're right, the building is a great location, but the building is not a good building whatsoever.
When the building first went up for sale, it was marketed at $175,000 when Mr. Nunnery retired. And that was a
Yeah.
perfect opportunity for us then, and we didn't pounce on it.
Mm-mm.
But now, because of time and the renovations they've made, I'm sure that's part of it, but that's
And what the
usually an
building
example
actually
of how
is,
quickly the property in Hope Mills is accelerating too.
the building is that, it's a house that they added a front
Yeah.
to it,
Yeah.
is what it is. So it was originally just a regular house sitting there, and they did a new roof line and built in front of it.
Is that the old music store?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's one.
Left turns out of there would be tough for the police department.
yeah, because there
Traffic
is a
island.
median there. You can't, actually, you can't turn left out of that.
Can't turn left, good.
So we did rule it out for police, but still for something maybe potentially in the future, for another town, something, whether it's classrooms for Parks and Rec or something, you know.
Pick a place
But the
for senior
location,
citizens.
you're right, is a prime location. We talked about everything you just mentioned, but the building is in much need of repair.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because like what the mayor said, I mean, over the years, we have missed a lot of opportunities. A lot of opportunities. I just don't want to miss this.
Right. It's still for sale.
Mayor,
But
I just-
we're not gonna
I
lease
feel
it for
that
the
way.
police
We've
station.
missed a lot of them. That down the road where we are now is costing us for that missed opportunity.
Is that something, not for the police station, but for another use? I can call the fella and we can go over the renovation needs that building has and see what's his, you know, lowest, you know, what, or we can go
I
out a number
think
and see
it's
if
a
they're
future
interested.
asset, regardless of whether we put the police station there or not.
Yeah,
I just see it as an asset to the town.
And while you're in that area, there's 3 homes that sit on Bullard Street that, as far as I know, they're all 3 vacant now. And, one's been vacant for ever since I've been mayor. And the one next to it most recently has come vacant, but they would be, the 3.
which side of Bullard are they?
Huh?
Are they on the Main Street side or the?
They're actually on the park side.
They're continuous.
They run, in other words, our parking lot runs into the first house, the second house, third house, but that whole area, and then there's a big vacant lot behind it before the apartments. I don't know the potential there, but that again would be, tied to all that
Right.
land that's up in that area. Whether or not that, neither one of those probably would work for a police station, but
Right.
if you're looking at property up there, they have been vacant and they might be a much less
The only
price
thing
than
with those, I don't know, are they
$500,000.
adjacent to the actual park property?
Yes, they attach
They
to
do
it,
touch
yes.
our property?
All
Yeah,
right, we've
we
got
had
it.
to clear the house, but the yard behind the house, I think 3 years ago because of the activity that was taking place in the woods. And the wooded area is ours, and the ball fence, there's a wooden fence that somebody put up to prevent baseballs from hitting it. But they all 3 run together and they all 3 back up to the
Okay.
Public Works.
We can check on all that,
Side.
but then again, we'd have to work that in with all the other projects that, you know.
Well, I'm just
more
saying, if you're looking at properties in that area, there's others that are up there, and which is what happened when the music store came open. We didn't really look at it because at that time, we didn't even know about the public safety building.
Mayor.
Yeah.
May I ask the board for a consensus to direct Drew to look at this building as an asset for the town?
Sure.
Can I ask the board for a consensus?
What concerns me, Commissioner Bellflowers, is all the other improvements that we're trying to make, such as the walking trails, the golf course, the police and fire department, among other things, what that's gonna end up costing us before we spend $500,000. And I agree with you on that, be the perfect property to have. There's some other property there, as the mayor mentioned too, besides the fish fry. I think it belongs to Miss Luther, is that correct?
It belongs to people on Fish Fry.
Okay, well, there's another lot there that's empty.
Well, let's do
Mr.
this
Lake,
at this point.
my consensus is just to direct.
Well, I tell you what, don't vote on anything.
Yeah.
Since we are talking property, and that's really something that should be discussed in closed session type thing, Dan's not here to
Yeah.
tell us one way or the other. Let's do this. I'll just put some information together, and we'll get it back to you at a certain time, and then that way we can discuss
Well,
that.
that's all I was looking
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
We
That's,
do that.
that's all I was
'Cause
asking.
we've already done a lot of what you're talking about, but we can put it together in more of
Right.
a
I agree.
Like the information
That's
packet.
all
for
I
you.
was looking for,
Yeah,
Jerry,
yeah,
it's just
just
that.
information.
because we can list out what's wrong with the building and the different things that would probably have to go into renovating it or even making it, worthwhile, because, we've got other buildings we're looking at the same types of issues with, that we're looking at, do we fix this or not? So it would be a situation very similar to that. Would it be better just eliminating the building and having a lot with something
I
else?
just look at the future
So,
ROI on this location,
But we'll get information, get it back to you and
That's what I
discuss that then.
that vision, that's what I see.
Okay.
I've got two questions on Ace Hardware building. Is that a triple net lease? Or
Is
what kind
that-
of lease is that? You mentioned the lease, but I don't know whether we pay for the repairs. Do we
Anything
pay,
we change to the building, we will be paying for.
Do we have to pay their property tax?
No, they
They
still
pay the
own the
property
building. They
tax.
pay all the property tax, they do that. The only thing we'll be doing is some minor renovations and then the temporary, changes that we'll do.
Do they take care of the heating and air? What shape is the heating and air in?
They
Is it
have
original?
all that. There's not a problem with all that, but they would be roughly still in charge of any major structural issues. We would be in charge of any minor and changes and those sorts of things. But we would pick up, of course, the utilities on the building, those sorts of things.
Everything on the inside of the building's us, and the outside of the building's them,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yep. But we've looked at it. I think Don and Ray have looked at it.
When we looked at that building, the water and power was on and everything was operational as far as HVAC, electricity. and all
How
that.
is the HVAC?
It's probably as old as the building is.
Original.
but
How many square feet is it, sir? Do you know?
80, I believe 80 by 60 is the central part, and then you've got a storage room in the back. I believe overall it's 6,400 square feet. I think the footprint of the building is 80 by 80.
Probably what you would do is go in there and seal off the back for storage for weapons and evidence.
Well, that would be up to the chief, to see, what he wants to do with that. The back is the egress area, so you probably can't seal off that storage area because you have to have
Interest.
two entrance, two egress areas for emergencies. And that is a locked door back there. If we want to look at putting in another one someplace else, that's always a possibility. It's a red iron building essentially, so it'd just be a matter of framing it and
Well,
installing.
I'm sure it'd be done in the correct way to bring it up to what the police department needs. I'm sure they,
Yes, sir.
So the
like he
HVAC
said, the chief stated that he already has staff working on a layout setup. So I'm sure all that's included in there, as he mentioned.
The HVAC is 18 years old and we're on a lease for 3 years. It's very likely the HVAC's gonna go down. I would imagine it's probably already on borrowed time. And we're gonna get in a situation like we got in the admin building where our staff or our police department's
That won't be on.
in the middle of
They'll
something.
take care of
That
that.
sort of thing.
Yeah, they'll take care of that.
Responsibility.
Well, I know they'll take care of it, but just like we took care of this, we talked about this last year, fixing the heating and air in the admin building, and here we are.
We're still working on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's what, April?
yeah.
That's
There you
April.
go.
First week of
Our
April.
bill.
a year later.
Yeah, first week of April, we're doing that.
But anything else about the lease, we will be bringing that lease contract to y'all at the meeting on the 18th. So once that's, we can't do anything until y'all approve it, and then once that's approved, we get it signed, then we can start moving forward. The chief would go ahead and get estimates in the current year so that come July 1, we're ready to start mobilizing, getting them in there. And then that way, he's thinking by the end of October, they can be out of the current building. And then once that's empty, then Chief Hodges would like the opportunity to do some training in it. And Joel, I believe y'all said you wanted to do some training in the old police station as well before we eliminate or demolish it. And use it for some training opportunities. And then, once it's
I can
gone,
think of a lot of
that
people like
fits
to go
there.
in there and do some exercises.
Yeah. And then once it's fenced in, it'll become the part of the construction area.
One more thing that we are going to have that we know as an upfront cost of that building is emergency power. They do have a box that's wired, but they've been using a portable generator and extension cord plug-in essentially. We're going to have to change that so that it is compliant with what we need for a police department.
Okay.
Drew, I do have one question.
All right.
Could you go back to the original footprint? I guess this will be for the chief. The proposed DOT roundabout, is that gonna present challenges or conflicts for entry and exits from this proposed footprint
Is that a question?
for you?
The roundabout isn't gonna cause an issue with exit and entry from the public safety building. It's gonna cause issues with response to emergencies.
Okay. In what way?
Did you all, I emailed you a letter from the fire chief.
I got it.
Yeah, so, and
just
I
kinda
think
wanted
he
to
would
see-
like permission to send that to DOT. And the deadline is the 15th, so, or a consensus from the board that it's okay
I
to
think it's
send
a good
that.
idea that they received that.
This is still showing the plan, because we got it from DOT before they had changed it to the roundabouts.
Roundabout.
Well, they state that the exits and the brakes and those barriers are still gonna be there. The issues with the roundabout is that an unsignaled intersection depends on the courtesy of the drivers. Anyone who's ever sat in traffic on Rockfish Road or Gulfview Drive pretty much knows that that's non-existent, so
They'll cut your throat.
having a signal there
No, not
is
Hope Mills.
really a much needed piece of equipment. And they state that they're still in the planning stages for that, but I'm not convinced of that. I think they've already got that as a done deal. Farther down at Park Boulevard, I don't know that that's all that much of an issue, but at Gulfview and Rockfish Roads, it's an imperative to have a signal.
Madam Mayor, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Chief, have you not sent a copy of that letter to DOT yet?
No,
No.
sir, that was we wanted to get a consensus of the board. I'm only speaking for my department, so, me personally, but this was response for the town, for all the departments. So we wanted to make sure that it was the board's opinion that needed to be done before we sent anything.
Can I ask the board's consensus to ask the chief to send this letter to DOT that we received by email?
Is everyone okay with that?
I do have a question though.
What's that?
Was the roundabout recently added?
So it was in the works back in the summer when we met, Don, DC, myself, Drew, Chief Richardo, we actually had a meeting at District 6 headquarters. We expressed our concerns and they took it out. So on February 12th, when we went to the meeting at Rockfish Elementary School, you can imagine our surprise when we saw not just the one that we
But
totally
two.
closed,
Yeah.
but another one.
They had
So
told
they did
us
take
they
it
took
out.
those out.
They told us back in the summer they would remove it.
Okay.
But now when we went to this meeting in February, we have 2 in there now. So I don't know if we send a letter, if we'll end up with 3.
That was Don's comment just now. We complained once and we got 2. Do it again, we might end up with 4.
Is everybody okay with sending a letter? Is that okay? Is it okay with all?
I'll
And
get with the manager first of the week and we'll make it.
I appreciate you doing that, asking the board before you sent it, because when I read it, I thought this was a good idea, so thank you for asking permission of the board. And-
Yes, ma'am.
And I think
Thank
this
you.
is, hopefully they'll pay attention and listen.
Well, I think it would be helpful to say the board is in concurrence.
Yes.
So it's not just the fire department.
At least take another look at it. At least take another look at what's
May
there.
not be any good, but at least we'll have our say.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, anything else on that?
Steve, do you have something to hand out to everybody?
Well,
Or present?
when we first started planning the Public Safety Center, one of the consensus that we had was that we were trying to build a building for the future. And in doing that, we started thinking about the impact, not just now for our operations, but down the road for both police and fire. So what we did is we wanted to kind of make an impact for everybody that would be lasting. So we made everybody something that would keep foremost in your minds as we discuss this.
And I was looking for a coffee cup.
Oh, I love it. Great idea.
Thank you.
And every time you start thinking in the negative, you just pour
Look
a
at
fresh
that
cup
cup.
of coffee.
Yep.
Thank you.
And hopefully that will only be good cups of coffee.
They
This
won't be
station
bitter.
tastes terrible.
I think I'll have one today out of this mug.
I'm gonna wash that cup out and have one in it too.
And we should take a break and fill them up.
So I have a question for you. So your main concern is probably the school traffic holding up that far right lane when you're trying to go around the turn circle?
Yes, ma'am, kind of, the whole premise behind a traffic roundabout is that you have an even or balanced flow of traffic all the time. We know at least 3 times a day, we don't have that at Rockfish and in Camden. So at least with the traffic light, sometimes people end up sitting in the middle of the intersection, but most of the time not. If you have a roundabout, when you have heavy flow of traffic from other approaches, it locks it down. So when they're backed up, turning into Rockfish Elementary School, which I don't know why they have buses, because apparently everybody takes their kids to school and picks them up. But they back up into that intersection. With a roundabout, they will back into that roundabout, and it will lock that roundabout down. So now we're trying to respond to a call down Gulfview Drive, or we're trying to respond to a call at Rockfish Road. At least now we can have a traffic light that will pretty much keep the intersection clear. We can negotiate that, no problem. If you have a roundabout, there's nowhere for anybody to go. So we're just stuck.
So when they had their meeting about the 59 widening, I talked to them about this because during school time, that right lane would be basically dead stop traffic waiting to go into the school. And they said, well, you can ride over the curbs. And I said, well, I mean, they need 2 lanes in order to maneuver the largest fire truck in order to get around it, whether they can ride over the curb or not. Is that correct? And they said, yes. I said, so how are they going to do that if the traffic is lined up there on Rockfish Road? So I do know that they are going to meet with Cumberland County Schools because they're going to tell them that they have to redirect their they're going to have to find another traffic pattern.
Sure.
But, so that is something that, because I said, you have to have them. I grew up with turn circles, so it doesn't bother me at all. But I can understand that with your largest fire truck, you do need those full 2 lanes to
We
go
definitely
around.
appreciate you being an advocate for us. Seriously. That's just a problem with the school. Between 4:30, 4 o'clock, and 6 o'clock in the evening with people going home, it's reversed. So even if they change the traffic management system there in the school, that's only going to take away one of the problems. If that makes sense.
When I think, and their argument will be that there's going to be 4 lanes instead of 2, and it's going to be continuous flow, which you do see with the turn circle. I mean, there is no stopping. You are going through. So, and you'll have double the road.
As long as you're not trying to get maneuvered through on the outside lane.
Right.
If you can make it to the inside lane,
But I did tell them that, I don't think we expect our $1 million trucks to be running over curbs every single time I have to get out. I don't think that that's a good idea
I mean,
either,
and,
so.
you know, there's issues
yeah.
with minions too, which was
Yeah.
addressed in the letter, but anyway, you know, it may not do any good, but those trucks aren't made for buy. They are expensive, we want to take care of them. And we want to be able to get to help people fast, so,
Yeah.
anything we can do to that end, that's what.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
that
sir.
was one of the reasons why I was requesting a presentation from DOT. So we would have them there and we can engage these concerns now while we still have the opportunity. Second thing, Steve, this is a nice cup,
Please wash it before you use it.
but
But it's empty.
But I want to say something about this cup. It's missing a name for the building.
Ah.
It
Well,
really
there hasn't
is.
been one decided.
It's missing a name for the building. And I'm looking up there too, Steve, and I don't see a name for the building. What do you think? You got an idea, Steve?
I think that you guys will probably come up with a name.
Yeah.
Think we may have an idea, come up with a name to
Yeah.
put on our mug and that building. I think we need.
We could wait until it's there and then determine.
I just want to say,
Chief,
it needs a name.
Chief, is there any vacant area back there where the school can put a back entrance in to their parking lot? Any houses that are,
No, sir.
could be condemned or anything?
I'm sorry, there's several I can think of.
I'm trying to think of a back way into that school. There's a lot of,
Water has one at least.
there's a lot of traffic comes out of that subdivision.
Yeah.
No, sir, I mean, it's definitely surrounded by residential.
Yeah.
Maybe the school should check into buying a piece of property back there that connects to the back streets, Crampton or somewhere back there.
Well, right now, we're getting along real good with the schools, so I don't.
Oh, all of us are. All of us are. I know it's on the baseball schedule. We got scheduled practices at the schools. Thank God. We still have a relationship there. Madam Mayor, can we fill our coffee cups?
Is it a good time for a break?
We got one other thing, if you
Okay.
wanted to hit on the substations.
Yes.
Okay, substations?
Yeah, and on that, we're just gonna be, very general. We are looking at, a couple locations for a substation. And we're currently researching it. And that's all we're gonna say.
That's, just to let you know, we're working on it.
We're working on it.
And
Yep.
have we looked at the one you wanted to before? Is that, you know, the location for substation that you had looked at?
We've looked at,
The one that was easily fit?
yeah,
Okay, all right, I won't say more.
we've actually looked at several.
Locations.
7
All right.
different locations, so, yeah, I got a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
I do too.
Okay.
yep.
All righty then.
And that's all, yep.
Let's, if you don't mind, let's take a break. The folks
And just so you know, Lamarcus, I do have a gavel, it's not my arm.
We forgot, Madam Mayor, we forgot to bring it.
It's all right, I've got it, it'll work.
That's what she does at the house anyway.
That's right. Pay attention. Works for me. All right, I'll turn this back over to, Mr. Holland.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Before Drew gets long-winded again. Earlier, before we adjourned, I mentioned that this cup needed a name on it. I looked at that picture up there. That building needs a name on it. And I can't think of anyone more worthy, more honorable. And I'll ask to make the motion that we name this building the John Willis Hodges Public Safety Facility. I make that that motion
Have a
today.
motion on the floor. All
But we
those,
do
I can
that.
go with
all
that.
those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
I think it's a great idea.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate
And Mr. Lopez?
Sir, ma'am.
Yes, I appreciate your kind words and your email that you sent to us in reference to that too. So I want you to
Yep.
know that how thoughtful you were too. If you haven't shared that with Chief Hodges, if you will, because that was a
Yeah.
nice email that you sent us.
I rarely share the nice ones with him. But in this case, I'll make an exception.
Thank you, sir.
ma'am.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All righty then. Now we're next to, and I guess let me turn this back to Drew, or you want to
Okay,
take care of
um,
introductions?
We have Desmond and Hermina here from SureMet Public Transit, and they're going to be giving us introduction to a transportation program. And you've got a handout that they gave you, and then you've got also one in your packet. So if you'll give your attention
Yeah.
to them, and they'll be doing a presentation for us.
Yep.
What tab are we in the book?
You've also
It's
got-
tab 5.
This is tab
Yeah.
5, and you've also got, just for your information, a copy of what was presented last year from the Fayetteville program, just as
Right.
a reference.
Okay.
Good morning to all of you.
Morning.
You're all well, we are, and we're very thankful and grateful to you for allowing us to be a part of your budget retreat. We won't be long before you unless you have additional questions that carry on. I'd like to say just a few things about this young man. This young man, when other young people mostly probably were being concerned about dates and the prom and other different high school activities, he was driving his mother and making sure and arranging transportation to get his mother to and from her cancer treatments at UNC Chapel Hill. From that grew a passion, stirred up a passion that started within him when he was a young boy. Anything transportation, anything going, getting anyone, any place, at any time, safely and dependably. From that passion, he became a part of his dad's business called Your Tours Unlimited, which has been in business for more than 25 years in the motor coach company. DJ is presently employed as well with the city of Raleigh. Is it Go Raleigh? I believe it is, a part of Go Raleigh, where he not only serves as a driver, but also serves as a liaison person to give constructive input into many of their projects that they have coming up as it relates to regional transportation. His dad, Wilbur Bell, who is DJ's partner, was not able to be here this morning. He was scheduled to, but we do operate a charter bus company. And charter bus companies usually have each other's backs. So someone was down this morning. And because all of our buses and drivers are out, the only 2 drivers left out of the 14 or 15 were DJ or his dad. And his dad's administrative decision was, send my son. I am with him 100%. And so he does back him, okay? They are partners. I just want to say to you that DJ does not have any grandiose views or ideas of becoming a multimillionaire because of the town of Hope Mills. They're doing all right with Your Tours Unlimited. However, it has been a passion of his. He has prepared for it by being an employee of his dad's, working with the Fast Company here in Fayetteville, also getting experience at Durham Fast Company as well. So he has lots of experience. He's also been a bus driver. That's where this really started for Cumberland County out in this area. And he noticed way back in 2013 that there may have been some need for public transportation out here. In 2016, he reached out and found out that forthcoming was a study. He kept up with the study. I did. Now I'm retired. I don't have to do that. Even though they hired me, I'm still retired. And I have to remind them of that from time to time. But please hear him, even though he's young face that you'll see. There is passion, there is preparation, and what he will come forward to you with to propose is partnership between us, so that we can help you provide for the citizens of the town of Hope Mills what you desire according to the recommendations of your recent study. Thank you again for allowing us to come, and I give you very proudly, DJ.
Thank you. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm coming before you to present you with a vision that I've had for the town of Hope Mills. Notice I didn't say Fayetteville, I didn't say Spring Lake, I said the town of Hope Mills. This proposal that I have put together before you all is centered around the need according to the study that you all had got, that was presented to you guys or put together for you guys in 2018. The reason I bring up the study is to let you know that I did previous research and previous planning before this in 2013. 2013 was when my vision started. 2016 is when I had a final route draft put together as far as a route that would service this community. 2018, when the study was done, it coincided, everything that was put into that study as far as the potential need areas spoke directly to the route that I had already pre-planned before the study was completed. So now that I have the opportunity to present it to you all, it's definitely, for me, it is a privilege and an honor to be able to present this to you. Whether it goes through or not, it is definitely a passion and a goal of mine to make sure that the community and the town of Hope Mills has affordable transportation, dependable and reliable. And that's what we're here to do for you. Let us start with proposed Route 102. We're going to read through the objectives, basically the overview of this proposed route that I have put together here for you all. Over to the right side, if you notice the configuration of the town of Hope Mills, I know this map is not on the screen, but I'm sure you all are familiar with this blue coded area here on the map. This is the communities within the town limits. When you get an opportunity later on, I'll leave it up. You can come through and look at it yourself close, get a closer view on where the route lines are drawn. But we'll start with Route 102. This is a form of circulator route that will stay within the town of Hope Mills. And we'll go on further down where we'll get to the Route 103, which is later on the next page, which Mr. Mina will pass out to you once we get to that point. The 102. The 102 will provide service to residents and businesses along Rockfish Road. This route will also give access to the golf course, Fantasy Lake, Main Street, for connections to proposed routes 103, the Town Crosslink, which is the name of that route, as well as the 104 Cross Creek Mall, and we'll get to that as well, because I did also see in a report that the board, I believe it was, had an interest in providing transportation from Hope Mills to Cross Creek Mall. But this route, when we get to that point, you'll notice that it does not only service Cross Creek Mall, they'll give them access to important businesses and places of interest, such as Cape Valley Medical Center, the VA Hospital on Rayford Road, because I know we have a lot of disabled veterans and persons in this community that would like to get to their resources as well. Okay, so it says this route will be interlined with proposed Route 103, which I just stated, to minimize transfers to local routes. So there will be 3 routes, as I mentioned. The reason why I interline these routes is because if we don't, most persons within the town of Hope Mills are accustomed to going to businesses throughout the town. So therefore, it will cut back on delayed arrivals, those passengers can be able to go directly from one side of Hope Mills to the next side without missing a connection. They'll just remain on the bus and go into the next route. All right, the major destinations on the 102 will be Walmart Main Street, Jack Britt High School, Traymore Village Shopping Plaza, Town Lake, and businesses along Main Street between Camden and Lakeview Road. All right,
Question right there.
Yes, sir.
You mean Traymore Shopping Center and Village Shopping's Plaza,
Well-
so where the food line is?
Exactly. So it'll service where the McDonald's is in Traymore Village itself, and then it'll come up to
Traymore's down at Jack Britt.
Yes.
That's at
Yes.
Jack Britt.
Yes, and then it'll come back to, once it leaves that point, we will service, I think it's Waldo Beach Road, we'll go down Waldo Beach Road.
Okay.
But if you would, let me, because I want to give you all the opportunity to go around the room and ask all the places you went, but I appreciate you, Mayor Pro Tem, for asking that. This service will connect at the Walmart on Main Street, where the Camden Road and Main Street connects, which is where most of the transfers take place. This route will operate during the week on a 60-minute frequency. That means it'll be at every stop every 60 minutes. All right? From 5:48, proposed. All of this information can be revised or whatever, at least the needs, concerns, or whatever of the community. 60 minutes from 5:48 a.m. until 7:30 p.m. We would recommend that there be service on Saturday. Sunday, we know will be a bit much for whatever you all may be willing to do as far as the budget. But Saturdays, most people are at for recreational purposes. They may want to utilize the transit. You'll notice here that one of the two of the three routes will make connections with fast bus service. Just to expand those persons who may ride with us, expand their options to get farther out within the county of Cumberland. But once again, let us focus that this is for the persons of Hope Mills. All right. And like I said, that's the presentation for the 102. And like I said, if you look at the map, you can see the configuration. It services areas down Golfview, which according to the study, I didn't get any printouts according to you guys' study, but I just have it here. If you want to see that as well, I'll have it for you once we finish this presentation. The need areas here along Hackberry over near Applegate, you all are probably familiar with that. It's a potential area which I feel as though would be an area where most of our ridership have come from for the 102. We have areas such as over off of Farmway Drive, which is over near Yorktown area. The bus will come through that area as well, which is a potential area. It'll go down Golfview, servicing the areas down near Heather Drive. And like I said, it's pretty well drawn out. I have the lines here once you get an opportunity to look at that. Let us move on now to 103, because we don't want to run out of time. 103. She should have just passed that information out to you. Proposed Route 103 is named Crosstown Link because it's going to get them from the heart of Hope Mills across town to what we know as Black and Decker Road, the Walmart there. We provide service. This route will provide service to Town Hall. This will also service Town Hall, the Recreational Center, the Senior Center, which we know a lot of our ridership probably will come from seniors, middle age, and the middle age group as well, and probably teenagers. Once we have I notice you all have a lot of recreational activities that take place throughout the summer months or whatever the case may be. This can be that way for those teenagers or youth or whatnot to be with their parents and get to these activities. Along Legion Road, businesses and Senior Center and businesses along Legion Road. This route will also give access to Fast Route 31. This is where I said they'll make a connection with Fast Bus. Route 31 with Fast, if you all are familiar with it, it comes to the Black and Decker Walmart, and it's not express, but it's pretty fast service to the downtown area. where we know the Fast Transit Center is now, that allow these passengers to go to the northern and the northeastern versions or whatever it is of Fayetteville. And it'll also be a bus that gets them to Fayetteville Tech. All right. So, what was I at? 30 Fast Route 31. It'll connect to the Walmart on Gillespie Street. There'll also be a connection at Main Street to proposed routes 103, which we just discussed, and the 104 Cross Creek Mall. This route will be interlined with the proposed route 102, which I explained the reasons for that. Major destinations would be Walmart Main Street, Southview High School, Walmart at Black and Decker Road, as well as the neighborhood market at Legion and Elk. There are also served business between Camden and Lakeview Road as well. This service, of course, as well will run every 60 minutes on the weekday from 6:25 a.m. until 7:30 because there will be 2 buses on that route, interlining these 2 routes. And then it'll end at 7:30 p.m. unless otherwise recommended by the board or whomever else will make this decision. It'll also run on Saturday at the same level of frequency. All right, and this, of course, that's the 103 crosstown link. Now, she's passing out the brochure for 104, but with the 103, there could be some revisions to this route if it were necessary. There's an area to the right of Legion Road. You were going up Legion Road towards Black and Decker. There's an area to the right of Black and Decker, the housing development that is there that could be potential ridership area as well. And if I'm not mistaken, in the study, it did say that there was some possible ridership in that area as well. But this is, like I said in the beginning, just a proposal. If it's something that you feel that could be revised, and I'm pretty sure it won't be much because, we're servicing most of the town of Hope Mills area. All right, so let's move on to 104. 104 is the Cross Creek Mall route. It's labeled Cross Creek Mall because, of course, everybody knows Cross Creek Mall is a major destination. And it's a major connection point for Fast to get these passengers on Express to Fort Bragg, Express to Murchison Road, which is where Federal State is located, as well as Cape Fear Valley North Hospital on Ramsey Street. So this just gives people a broader opportunity by connecting these buses with the Fast system. Let's read the project overview. Proposed Route 104 will provide service to Cape Fear Valley Medical Center. We know that's an important destination as well, and getting people to the key destinations is crucial for gaining ridership. VA Medical Center, which is on Rayford Road now, of course, we want to give those veterans, the opportunity. There's not much transportation for them right now. There's vans and probably programs that they can call, but something consistent that they know they can come out to the streets and catch this vehicle that'll get them to their appointments. It's important, it's crucial. Cross Creek Mall and Main Street connection for proposals 102 and 103. Our team has heard the request, what I mentioned before, in the report, the article in the newspaper. Our team has heard the request of the board and made every effort to collaborate with the 2018 FAMPO study while creating this particular route. I would give you all the opportunity to look at that proposed route, 104, and make a decision to whether or not this is something that, once you look into the funding or whatever the case may be, it's important to get them to that connection, those connection points. It is important to get them to the VA. And I believe that the community would probably agree with that. However, I want to leave that to you all because it is leaving out of the town limits. And as I stated, my main goal was to make sure that we're able to get these people around Hope Mills. All right, this service will run every 60 minutes as well. It's servicing a lot of grounds here. It is I think that the configuration of this route is a great idea. It's getting them to a lot of places of probably important interest. It'll run from 6:25 a.m. until 7:30 on the weekdays and 9:30 a.m. until 7:30 on Saturdays. And from that, I will, oh, and also I did look through what they listed in the study as far as fast proposed routes. And my opinion on that, I'm just giving an opinion, is that these routes that FAST presented to you all, working with them and having a history there, it seems to me as if it were a service in Fayetteville that gave their citizens or their persons within those town and city limits an opportunity to get to Hope Mills. It wasn't, in my opinion, to center around the needs of this area. And that is my concern. That's why I had such an interest in getting this to you guys, to at least look through this and see if this spoke to you as it did with me when I looked over the proposed routes that FAST presented to you all. And at this time, I guess I'll open the floor up for questions as much as I can answer for you as it relates to the routes. Anything business or administrative related, I can refer you to Ms. Boston Williams, and she will definitely help you with that. All right?
Okay.
Right.
Questions? Start.
I know it was a lot.
Mr. Evans?
I'm more or less an advocate for the seniors.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are you gonna have transit shelters or something for them to wait at to get this transportation?
See, in the long term, viewing this service in the long run, I would love to have amenities for them as far as being outside, being from the rain, shelter from the rain, shelter from the elements or whatever the weather should be at the time. However, we have to get the service started. We have to get this service started and get these people involved with this service to know whether or not, in my opinion, whether it would be worth spending that money right away to provide those shelters for them. But keep in mind, I am concerned, and I know that majority of our ridership is going to be senior citizens. So it's going to be key as far as, because people pay for convenience and efficiency. So if we can have a place for them to stand and sit, I know they'll come out and use the service. Because why not? You know, if you can ride a bus for an affordable rate versus getting a taxi cab for $20 and $30 a day, why would you not utilize this service? And it's something provided by their town. So as far as that, right now, right away, I can't say that those amenities will be provided in the beginning stages of this service.
Okay, well then another question that they have too is that they take the taxi because the taxi picks them up where they
Door to door.
residence is and they take
Door
them
to door.
home. They help them in with their groceries. And this is what they're looking for because a lot of them, if they go to the mall or they go to Walmart, they have packages. And some of them are on walkers and some of them really need help. They're independent and that's why a lot of them rely on the taxi even though it does cost them.
We have a health trip program too, don't we?
They're not used to it.
They've never,
They
the
never-
county's never started that
They never
program.
started.
They presented but didn't start.
We
Yeah.
indicated we wanted to participate in it, but they've never started it.
But now the Division of Aging, they have transportation that goes out and picks them up for, going to the hospital or something like that, but that's just the seniors, not the veterans.
My recommendation for that, and I do agree with you on that. My recommendation for that is if we were to provide this service, that when we come up with the fare structure, that we allow them to bring a personal care assistant on board with them. Maybe we can charge the one rate fee for the person, maybe who the original, maybe the senior who is actually going to do the shopping, or maybe we charge but I don't think we should charge the personal care assistant because they're there to serve a purpose. That's something that we could talk about. Once we come and we decide that the partnership will work, we can come up with ideas that would benefit those persons that may need that extra assistance. I do agree with you 100%. It's easier to have a service that comes door to door. However, I'd be willing to entertain that with the time. But we have to look at the fact that how effective, it's going to be effective because we're getting our citizens where they need to be. However, cost effective, is it cost effective? We're providing a service that's door to door, we can only get 3 or 4 people within an hour frame. Versus having a fixed route service, we can have multiple persons, more people within the community being serviced by this proposal. Because It can be whatever the capacity of the bus would be. So, I would love to entertain what we would call a paratransit style service whenever the time comes. But I think getting the image of transportation out there would work a whole lot better starting out as a big route service.
Thank you.
Other questions, concerns?
That was excellent.
Okay.
So with your service, is your cost competitive as far as what the cost is to the citizens with the FAST system?
That's another thing. I would rather leave the fare structure to you all as far as how much it would cost for those passengers. In my opinion, I mean this. First of all, let me put this out there. I'm speaking on a partnership. I don't want to say that, you know, I'm just going to come in here and tell you guys what to do with the transit program. I want input. I want to know how we can put something together that would make this work. My, like I think Ms. Armina had mentioned in the beginning, I'm not here to get rich. I'm here because I see that there's a need for this community. There's no reason why Hope Mills has no transit through FAST. Even if they probably want you to contribute to whatever, I don't know. But I feel as though FAST has been around too long not to have a service coming through the town of Hope Mills.
So we give you our parameters, whether we want to charge a fare or not.
Exactly.
You come back with pricing.
Exactly.
At that point.
Exactly.
Are your services also eligible for grants and subsidies from the government?
They are, and we've already looked into that. There is a nonprofit arm of this particular business, and we've already looked into.
You guys are 501c3?
They're not SureMet, but there is a nonprofit arm of SureMet YTU.
Okay.
We are 501c3. We have an arm that is a 501c3.
All your services are ADA compliant?
Yes, that's when we start discussing this partnership, we make any adjustments needed to comply with ADA laws. We'll make every effort we can to comply with ADA laws. I do have resources. I do, like she's mentioned before, with my past and, well, my current and previous employers, I have connections or relationships with my previous general managers, planners for the, you ever heard of the Orange County Transit Planning Committee, as well as the Wake County Transit Planning Committee. I sit down with them. In fact, I've shown them some of my presentation, and they were saying that to me that it took probably 3 or 4 of them to put together something like that within a 2 years span. So, and like I said, that to me should, I'm not boasting, but that should say that I've really worked hard on this presentation. I'm really wanting to get these people some affordable transportation.
And DJ, if I might add, if you don't mind, all of our bus services for the past over 25 years have always been ADA compliant, even before it was mandated. Even our charter buses are.
And,
that way. So everything we do with persons in mind from birth to glory. Okay?
Are your
Because
buses,
it is a sensitive area.
are your buses identified such that somebody know it was public transportation?
We're gonna do that. My plan was to put on the outsides of the bus what we do. In other words, it'll show for if you were to have a fare structure, it would show on the side of that bus this amount to reach all day service, one way service. It'll have that on the side so these people will know. They'll look at it and they'll say, $1 to go, you know, and they'll call the number. They'll ask questions, and we right there. That's marketing. We're promoting this service so that it does succeed, because we want the service to succeed. I'm not putting this together and hoping that it fails.
There you go. There you go. Additionally, you would have input into what is placed on that. We'll have some standard logo information there, but you would definitely have input into what goes on that vehicle.
Mr.
Oh,
Lee,
those
you wanna come over here,
Uh-uh.
cause this is a portion where.
There would be something identified that might have the Hope Mills logo or something on it.
It can't, oh, that's,
If that's what you
Yeah.
would choose.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter to me whether our name is big bold outside the bus, they could have Hope Mills Transit inside if you want. If
And are y'all looking at a commitment of 2 years, 3 years, 1 year? What
We
do you
were
guys think?
hoping for a commitment of 5.
5 years?
Because there's a lot that we can accomplish within those 5 years as a partnership together.
Right. I imagine you have quite a bit of capital investment if you want to recoup your money.
Yeah.
You know. The only other thing I had was there any particular reason Millstone, that large shopping center out there on Camden, doesn't seem to be on any of the routes?
Which one on?
Where the Millstone Theater is?
Oh, it is. In fact, it's serviced by 2 routes. It'll be serviced by the 102, and it'll be serviced by the 104 on its inbound trip back to Hope Mills. And it'll serve both sides of the street, so passengers don't have to cross.
Okay, that wasn't very clear.
I'm sorry, and that was key. It was over there by Foothill. Is that correct? Is it Foothill? Road?
Footpath.
Footpath. Okay. Yes. That is in. I do apologize for this. That's what I was saying. When you get an opportunity, you can view it. If you're familiar with the town configuration, right here is about that area where you were speaking. This is the Walmart campus in Main. So this is Main Street. This is Camden Road. This right here comes through at Foothill. All right, and it'll go out, and this route is a Trayville route, but then the route that comes back down Rockfish Road will make the left and come back to the Walmart here.
But there will be a stop at
Yes, sir.
on 102 and 104.
Exactly, and the 102 will actually service the area behind. It's apartments. It's yes, it'll service the area behind the movie there.
Okay. That's all I have, Madam.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
is there going to be projected yearly pass or weekly pass that people can get a discount on, like a card or something like that?
Once again, I would want to leave that to you. Because I want it to work. And whatever you guys decide that the fare structure should be. See, the fare, to be honest with you, what is collected through fare box revenue is not for me. That's for the town of Hope Mills. This is the return on the fare box is for you all. So whatever you decide the fare should be is whatever the town of Hope Mills decide. I'm not demanding you to say you should charge your passengers $3, you should charge your passengers $5. It's whatever the town of Hope Mills feel comfortable doing.
I was just interested if I wanted to use the bus service to go to a regular place all the time, like a doctor's office or something, can I buy a yearly pass or a monthly pass that could use either a card or something like that?
That would be left to the town of Hope Mills.
Is that in your proposal, or do you have a suggestion?
If you were going to create a fare structure and you wanted to have a yearly pass, if your person is going to the same place every day consistently, then that may be something that the town could contact that person the business owner of that person and say, listen, we got a system, the fare structure is XYZ. If you would be willing to provide your customer, your whatever it may be, with a monthly option to ride public transit so they can have a consistent alternative to get here, then I think, that could be something you all could, that's a recommendation. But once again, fares, I would leave to the town.
Okay, sir. You're more or less recommending we have sponsorship from the businesses.
If you can.
That's one reason.
Yeah. I mean, because you're right. I mean, depending on what the circumstances are where these folks are going, I mean, it may, if they can have a way to even have support with even what I would say affordable option, which is this transit, they still may have a need that they may need further. So if you can, can collaborate with those, agencies or businesses in doing so, then
I know, just like on the turnpike, you can get a discount if you buy a pass that will mount on your vehicle. So I guess that's something the town would have to come up with.
Yes.
There's got to be a base price for each one of these, 104, 103, 102. Is there a base where your starting point and then it's determined on what packages we want to go to?
I did break this down, and I'll let her speak on it. It is
Okay.
broken down by scenario, okay? The recommended scenario, of course, would be the full service, because it's giving those people more options. Like I said, once again, let me keep emphasizing, I'm not here to get rich, all right? But it does cost to run an operation like this. It's broken down by 3 routes, which is the routes proposed, all 3 together. It's broken down in a scenario to where you can provide circulated service that only stays within Hope Mills, which is, in fact, would be the 102 and 103 combined. Or there could be a 102 and 103 one vehicle servicing every 2 hours, and then the 104 that would still get them outside of town limits that would service every hour. So that means each time that bus gets to the connection point, there's another bus going out to the Cross Creek Mall, whatever the case may be. And then there's one last option that would only provide one bus that would do the 102 and 103 collapse, and that would be every 2 hours, 2-hour frequency still, that those persons would possibly be waiting to get on the bus. But I do have that broken down into each scenario. But like I said, I think that when you make the decision that you just think of the effectiveness of the program. You know, you want it to work and you want it to be something that would sustain. In other words, it would be around for a long period of time, and then later on there may be growth, which you ask about grant funding and everything else. Once they see that we are able to sustain, we'll be able to reach out to those.
One question also, do you have a partnership or an arrangement with the FAST system so that there'll be a pull-in place? I'm seeing it going to the downtown transit center, but is there gonna be conversation with them about the drop-off and that kind of stuff?
I did not take this bus to the Fast Transit Center. I did not. I had a connection point at the Walmart at Black & Decker where Fast Bus also stops. That way, we don't have to, unless it's something that you all want to do, I don't want you to have to do too much collaborating with the Fast system. Because if they care, if they had a concern, I believe they would have been here.
Okay, so will your schedules coincide so that if I'm going to the Black & Decker Walmart and I want to go downtown, pick up the Fast Bus there and go downtown and go somewhere else, and then getting back so I can get back to Hope Mills?
I will break that down for you as well. The interline route 102 and 103. Once that 103 reaches the Black & Decker Road Walmart, that's the only stop that won't be like we pull up and we pull in there and Fast Bus pulls right behind us. They may have a 5-10 minute wait, and I did that on purpose. I did that so that if we are delayed, those persons will still be able to make their connection bus. The route that goes to Cross Creek Mall, that route will connect with Fast Buses. It'll get there, I think, the way I routed it, it may give them 5 to 10 minutes. 5 minutes before that bus arrives. Their buses usually sit 5 minutes. So therefore, we'll be there, and then they'll pull up 5 minutes later, and then they'll be able to get on.
So you'll have those arrangements made with Cross Creek Mall and Walmart, so that way it's accessible?
Yes. Right now, they have that bus platform at Cross Creek Mall.
I just know that's the Fast Bus, and that's what my concern is. If we go there, are we gonna be able to coordinate my getting off the bus and getting under that shelter while I wait to get on my other bus? Or is that gonna be something that needs to be negotiated?
If it got to that point to where it needed to be negotiated, then once again, as a partnership, in this partnership, I'd be willing to stand with you when it came time to make those negotiations. But I don't see it being a problem. But it does, I mean, of course, City of Fayetteville may have, when they see this, they may feel some type of way about it. They may try to impose some type of fee or whatever, but I believe it will be easy for us to go in and I'll do that. Once we see that this is something that you want to entertain, I'll be willing to go and speak across Creek Mall on my phone and ask them, is it a way or a place that we could use, an area where we can utilize to allow our passengers to transfer with fast money.
And one last question is, and I think this would relate to what Commissioner Legg asked, and that would be the fares are going to offset the cost.
Mm-hmm.
So if we collect fares, it offsets the total cost that we have, whereas in other arrangements we've heard where you would collect the fares and then that still would offset the cost, but you would be determining the fares. So in this kind of deal or partnership, we would set the fares and then the fares could offset the cost, the total cost. So we would be taking on ownership of the collection of fares.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have one last tough question. The toughest question. Why should we consider your company over FAST?
Because, as I say, my main goal is to make sure that we are meeting the needs of this community. I love FAST. If you could, by all means, if that's something that you want to do, have with it. But at the same time, I can promise you that they're not going to center their concerns around the needs of this community. I can guarantee you that.
You're telling us you give us better personal service, I think.
There you go.
Is that what it is?
There you go. Trust me, I looked through the study and I looked through it thoroughly, and I made sure that my routes was real line. And I have the original route. I had that on the other map where I was going to show you. It has the 2013 stamp on it with the town Hopeville seal, and it says 2013 this is printed. And I'm sorry, 2016, and it was printed. Where I had that finalized route done, and I revised to accommodate the need areas.
We'd be a little bit more independent of Fayetteville's system like this. Okay.
And any of the fine points, all of the questions that you've raised at this point, most of those questions we raised amongst ourselves ahead of time. And we appreciate your interest and questions because that's what's going to help a partnership, whether it's with SureMed, YTU, or with someone else,
and
is that the collaboration, it would be a collaborative effort.
And I'll tell you this, this has been a dream of mine, okay? It's been a dream of mine, and it's been a vision of mine. And she'll tell you a slogan that I had came up with, you'll see it in the top right corner. It says, where hope becomes reality. And I believe that's what I said. Hope Mills is a town where hope becomes reality. And this opportunity just to stand before you and give the presentation is enough for me. So, this is an honor. I came, I was like, when I was asked to come, I'm like, sure, I come. I'll lay it out for you, and so.
I'm sorry, and how many other municipalities do you provide services for?
No other municipalities,
Yes.
except that we do provide some ADA service. We do provide medical transportation for persons going to any of the major medical facilities in North Carolina and sometimes Virginia, but most of the time North Carolina, as well as the charter service.
How many buses are y'all currently managing?
Right now, we're managing about 4, looking to buy another one. There's a spare, of course, all of the time. That's what's out today, trying to be of assistance to another company. And we manage about 5 vans at this time. We service Fort Bragg and surrounding areas.
That's what I was getting ready to say. On the charter leg of this business, we are what they consider DoD service. We do provide services through Fort Bragg for soldiers going, whether they be getting ready to be sent overseas for any, anything related to
exercise
yes.
or whatever.
So
we are cleared, have a clearance for that.
You guys got a good safety record?
Yes.
Yes,
As far as no accidents?
We have no accidents at this point.
I have a question statement. I'd like to ask, I guess, to Mr. Morrison, I need to ask Maxie, how many of the seniors at the center do we need this service for? Is there a lot of them that need assistance in getting to and from the senior center?
It would really be hard for me to answer that. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I'm sure there's absolutely some that would be a big assistance to. I wouldn't be able to provide numbers, but
Okay.
And one last point we considered and we talked about and would like to offer, should you decide to go with us, is service to and from your town hall meetings. If you need that service, we would prepare for that ahead of time and provide that to and from your town hall meetings. Okay?
Well, I'm sure we need service within the town, there's no doubt. I get that question about every week. I don't know where everybody else gets them or not, but when are we gonna get bus service? So there's no doubt that we need the service. It's just the matter of how much it's gonna end up costing.
And what you have to, we can tell the service, there's a package, we can tell it at once if we were to be chosen, we find out what you offer and see what we could do about offering the best service, the most efficient and the most effective service for your residents at that cost.
Does this board want to move forward, Madam Mayor, with the town manager doing a little bit more investigation and
We would just
negotiation?
need a consensus from you all, you know, if you wanted to investigate it further.
I think we should give the manager the opportunity to negotiate an investigation to what it would end up, the cost would be to put the service into town. Does anybody object to that?
Now, I think, did you say you already had some
Yes, we did,
figures?
but those were preliminary figures just for us to see what we could provide. Now, once that contract was offered to us, excuse me for sitting, once a contract offer was offered to the company, then the company would be willing to sit with you and negotiate.
Let me ask a question. So you guys are looking for a 5-year deal, right?
That's what we're looking for.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure that when we're talking about some consideration, Commissioner Legg, they're looking for a 5-year deal here.
But you would settle for less.
We won't say settle, we'll say that we can collaborate. Not settle. Because the reason I say that, I'm sorry, the reason I'm just being jovial. The reason I say that is because when one says settle, sometimes somebody loses. And when there's a collaboration, we all are winners.
I guess
And so
I need
that's
to
what
get,
we would do, we would collaborate, but not settle.
I guess I need to get a dictionary.
Well,
No, I didn't mean that. Please. Please don't think that. Please don't think that. I just wanted to keep it on,
We can negotiate.
Yeah, we can negotiate
Okay.
and collaborate.
We change the words.
I will say, I mean, and I keep throwing it out there, but my goal is to create a program that's going to last and stay and grow. Okay? I don't want, well, I ain't gonna say I don't want, I would hope that you all wouldn't, someone else would get selected and they create a service that would maybe centered around the need of hope meals in the beginning, but in the long term, they lose them. And that's
Or it may be so economical or cheap, not economical, but so cheap, that it is not reasonable for them to sustain the service. And we're interested in offering something and collaborating with you on something that is sustainable and that will grow. Because we're also moving into an area of regional service as well, and would like for you all to come along.
one last question. You talked about your charter buses and your vans. Does City Transit, Hope Mills City Transit would have to have a different type bus, correct? So that would mean the cost of those buses have to be considered, and I'm thinking that's where this 5-year plan comes from, is that you gotta buy buses in order to do the service.
That's where we're taking the fight.
Right, I understand.
That's our contribution.
Right,
One of our contributions.
okay,
Getting
okay.
time, putting this
Together.
together.
That's one of our contributions.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Legg,
Yes, sir.
I think we've got a lot of budget items. I would just recommend to you, sir, that maybe we could take this one under consideration and then come back later.
I think that was what we were looking for, is
Yeah,
that
just,
Okay.
just
The
a
consensus
consensus,
to-
yeah.
Stay under consideration.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for coming today. We appreciate your time, appreciate your information. Thank you.
If I may, I want to walk around the table and get some handshakes. It was definitely a privilege to be able to come in and speak. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Forgive me. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for coming.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am. Appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am.
that's something we're gonna have to do sooner or later.
Staring at me.
Make us a junkie before we get out of here.
Just calling your name.
This will make us a junkie. Be a candy junkie.
Yeah, next, I know, yeah, so.
They're not cheap. If you live in town.
That's fast. That's not them.
All
Yeah,
of
they
it.
didn't offer a price. No, there was no.
They didn't give us that.
We're saying that bus service is gonna be expensive.
Yeah. Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, we're ready to move on, we'll push on,
All right.
since we've already had our break.
Okay.
The next section is the ADA transition program, and I'll just say a few words about it, and then if you have any questions or any discussion, then it'll be myself and Mr. Cisco. But basically, and well, just to give you a little brief overview, last year, I believe it was last year, we were contacted by the state, and the state is basically requiring all municipalities now to take over the ADA portion of the federal, the law. Back in 2012, we were sued by someone for not having ADA compliant Parks and Rec facilities, and there was a settlement in 2013 with a five-year program that was outlined in that settlement of what we had to do each year. I have tasked Parks and Rec and also Mr. Cisco to make sure, since we've got a change in Parks and Rec director, because the former Parks and Rec director was overseeing that piece. I believe that most all of those items have been met in that settlement, but I've asked them to go back. I've provided them a copy of the settlement and I've asked them to go back and double check, make sure we're not missing anything. Of course, the last thing we're doing right now, we're currently working on Brower Park, ADA compliant over there. So,
Madam Town Manager, now, is there some oversight authority that comes in to make sure that we have finished our compliance plan?
as far as the settlement agreement, I've got to look at, the settlement agreement is separate from this ADA transition.
Right.
We were sued, we were required to do certain things in that settlement. I'm gonna have to research to see what, what compliance, if we've met everything with that settlement, who we need to let who we need to notify. I'm not really sure the answer to that.
But that time has passed.
That time has passed,
Mr.
yes.
Cisco,
And I think Mr. Cisco's got,
There is a
something
clause
to-
in the settlement
that-
that gives the ability for either the complainant or a representative
To
to
come
come back
back.
to the town
Yeah.
and inspect the work that was supposed to have been done.
So we're a little bit behind schedule.
So well, that I don't know.
no, I think we've completed everything within that. But it was a very small snapshot of what needs to be done. When we were sued, we settled out of court, and as part of the settlement, the person that sued said, okay, I'm willing to say, yes, do this, yes, do this, and yes, do that. That doesn't mean that's everything within the town. We have a lot of things that that need to be brought up to ADA compliant. So no, this is just a separate piece. But we have been working on it. So if someone were to come along and say, "Oh, your town hall's not ADA compliant," we can show that we've been working. Currently, we just did a redo on the website, completely redid the website, and I believe that the majority of that is ADA compliant now. So whereas before it wasn't. So we are currently working on things. The issue is we need to have a plan moving forward, whether it be a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. That's going to depend on funding. That's where we have brought in Stewart Incorporated and there's information in your packet for them to help us to come up with identifying physical obstacles that we need to address. It'll also describe if they do this plan for us, it will describe the method that we will use to make the all facilities accessible, including streets and sidewalks. Every street and every sidewalk within the town of Hope Mills. Every crosswalk, every public facility, every park. And they'll help us identify, a plan for each year.
Are we talking about private property too?
No, public
We own,
property.
have title to it, or?
Yes. Yep. But they will put together a schedule for taking steps necessary to achieve compliance. And then we can put money aside each fiscal year to accomplish those goals. And if we have a plan, and if we are working on that plan, and somebody comes along and says, you're not compliant, we'll have a much better chance of defending ourselves. Whereas previously, in 2012, when we were sued, we didn't have a plan. So anything you want to interject, Don?
Let me ask this question. Does FAMPO have an ADA transition program as well? Under FAMPO?
I can't answer that. I'm not sure. I don't know. They're not a municipality, so.
Yeah, I know.
I think that would fall under the city of Fayetteville, probably.
Okay.
And
I was looking at the umbrella piece
mhm,
from FAMPO.
mhm. No, we're required to have a plan.
So each municipality is
Each-
required.
Mhm.
So the city would be, we would be, Spring Lake would be, okay.
Yeah.
All the municipalities would be.
And anything you want to add, Don?
The folks from Stewart, well, I think I've talked about this for most folks, but just a little bit of background. They're all started with the federal government, and then once the federal government deemed themselves to be relatively ADA compliant, they pushed the statutory requirements to the states. And North Carolina has been working on it for several years now, and now that they have come to the point that they believe that they are relatively compliant or have plans to become, they are pushing the responsibilities down to the municipalities. And that's why, even though the ADA has been in existence since
1990.
72, I
Well,
believe was the
but-
first act.
Yeah.
It is now coming to the municipalities. So we have done things in the past that were not compliant, that were not enforced, because nobody was looking at it at that level at the time. But now it is going to that level, and there is actually a group of lawyers in Raleigh that have been tasked with working with the municipalities to get the municipalities to come into compliance. A couple of things that we had to do to start off with, to show that we're working towards it, was identify our program manager, which is Ms. Adams right now. It rests as a responsibility of the town manager. We're working on a grievance policy. It's one of the first steps that even though we don't have a policy, we have to have a grievance policy.
Right.
And then we'll be working on a policy as well. One of the next things that we're going to get involved in, once if we bring Stuart online or whoever we do, is we have to have a group of open community sessions for the general public, special interest groups, whether it be a group that represents the seniors, a group that might represent a certain type of disability or something like that. We're going to end up having, or we have to have a number of public meetings and start getting public input from there. Stuart right now, we're looking at their scope of work. They can get started actually this summer, what they're looking at doing, because one of the things that we have to do is we have to do a town survey of all of our streets, all of our sidewalks, all of our buildings, all of our facilities, and all of our programs. And everything has to be ADA compliant. Like Melissa said, we've already started with the IT because it's a relatively simple one for us to start with, but it's showing progress. And then once we get this written plan, it will have to go into budgetary steps. We can start putting dollars to it, and it would probably become part of our CIP program, where
Each
the
year.
town will look at investing, say, $50,000 a year until we can become ADA compliant. Right now, they're saying that municipalities, they understand that we can't just go in a year's time and fix everything and become ADA compliant. So the state is looking at, as a reasonable amount of time for most municipalities, at about a 10-year program, and they said that they can extend out to about 15 if you can show, especially the smaller municipalities, some sort of a hardship financially or somehow that you need just a little bit of extra time. But the key is to actually have a plan and a process to get to the end point of that plan right now.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a
Yes,
question?
sir.
Melissa, I'm going to direct this question over to our new incoming Parks and Rec Director. Yeah. All right, here you go. And again, welcome for coming.
Thank you.
Could you share some best practices that were successful with ADA and the recreational facilities that you are part of in Greenville?
Absolutely, and just a little keynote. We went through the same thing in Durham back in 2004, and DOJ gave us 5 years to work towards that. So we also did the ADA study, but as part of each CIP plan each year, we just took a number and said 20% of all park projects, CIP projects, 20% would go towards making everything ADA. So that was our playgrounds, the entry level entrances to our facilities, from the parking lot to sidewalks to the buildings. So anything dealing with a CIP project, new ones, 20% went towards ADA. In addition to that, simultaneously we work towards old facilities, making those ADA compliant on that same 5-year track. So that's one way so we can get ahead of the curve. But we had to allocate money towards that. And of course, we did have to pass a bond. Part 20% of that bond funding was towards everything ADA City, recreational parks, public works, public safety, went towards ADA compliance.
Did you guys identify the ADA requirements internally, or did you go external?
We went external. We got a couple of architects that
Okay.
have experience with ADA compliance, and you know, these statutes, they change probably every 3 years. One change was, let's say, trail construction. I don't think they voted on that yet, because you can't make every trail ADA because you got steep slopes, but they're working on it.
Key, yeah.
But yeah, we had an expert, because even though I know what the ADA laws are, and they change all the time.
Yeah, but that worked in partnership with the department heads within Greenville.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And we also did ADA study in Greenville here recently too, so we're using that plan to ask for CIP dollars each year to fix the things that were identified. And that also goes with, sinks might be too high, you know, we had lower down sinks to be ADA compliant, you know, putting braille on doors, things of that nature.
You say you was in Durham before Greenville?
I was in Durham from Greenville.
Okay.
Yep.
You went through the law, did you guys go through the lawsuit
We did.
in both places?
No, just, I learned my lesson in Durham, and I said, we need to address this in Greenville, so we were proactive with it.
I think it was just in Durham. I think that's where it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor.
And-
So,
Yes, sir.
I guess I'll direct this to Maxie or Don. Are all of our facilities, what percentage do we have the ADA requirement satisfied?
I just yesterday printed out the report that Melissa sent me. I believe, I'm almost sure we're caught up at Municipal Park, did it in several phases. Broward Park, we should be, other than those additional 2 sidewalks that I'm working on getting the engineering drawings for now. Once we get those 2, we should be good there.
Is that the one we have to work with the school with?
Yes, I've already talked to the school.
Okay.
I
It looks
talked to the
really
office.
nice. It really does look nice, and I appreciate you.
Once we get those other 2 connecting sidewalks from the parking lot to the gates, we'll be
I'd like to remind the board, if you look back, things that we've done in the past 2 or 3 years is take those little dirt parking lots that people used to get stuck up in the middle of in the sand, and they're now converted over to nice handicap accessible parking lots where people have spots marked out. And Maxie already has some spaces at Broward Park already marked out for handicap, and there's already a sidewalk connected to that area that will take you all the way around that building and to the ball fields. So I think that was part of the requirement we had to meet through that lawsuit.
I don't believe Broward, for whatever reason,
Broward Park was not listed on there, I don't
Well,
believe, no.
Well, it's
but-
done now. It's done now.
Except being proactive.
Yeah,
We did it
Yeah.
because we needed to do it, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
yeah.
And I'm really proud of what's happening at Municipal Park. Especially the police station, we ended up over there. We had a paved parking lot for them, but I'm satisfied with the direction we're headed to put the police station, but I just wanted to get an idea of percentage of ADA stuff that we have accomplished.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to go ahead and ask the board for the consensus to move forward with the ADA transition program.
I just have one question before.
Okay.
Don, help me understand, when you say our streets have to be in compliance, what's that mean to me?
Sidewalks, crosswalks.
What that means to you is like sidewalks, you have to have handicap ramps.
All our neighborhoods.
Truncate, every place there's a sidewalk has to be ADA accessible.
Yeah.
The only exceptions that we would probably have in areas like Lakeland Road, where due to the terrain that is actually not feasibly changeable to make it ADA compliant, we can get exceptions for something like that. But if it is feasible to make something compliant, you have to do that. And that's going to include, like I say, crosswalks, sloping, things
Yeah.
that we take for granted. If you're ambulatory, folks that would, with some sort of disability, have trouble traversing, we have to make available to them. And the key is that if you have a facility, a program, anything that is a town-owned entity, you have equal accessibility for folks with disabilities.
So you've got a homeowners association that owns basically greenways and all that. Do we still have responsibility in those areas?
No, if it is not town property, and if you have a homeowners association taking care of it, it's not town property. You know, like the streets behind Millstone, those are actually part of the HOA back there. The town does not maintain them, we're not responsible for them.
And are these upgrades, Powell bill eligible?
No, there is no funding, additional funding for that. I mean, we can take it out. Some of the things that will actually have to do with the streets themselves, we can take out of our Powell bill funds. Some of the things that we won't be able to. But I would like to piggyback one thing, Mr. Lay, on your percentage, and actually I don't mean to step on your toes, but as was mentioned before, because the laws change, things that you see, like sidewalks and stuff like that, at parking lots that we've been doing, are areas that have to be done. There are some areas, as far as our facilities go, that we still have to go back and look at. Things that you don't really think of. Things like height of handles on doors, how many pounds of pull it takes to open it. So things actually have to be ops checked as well, in order to make sure that those are ADA compliant. It's not just a matter of being able to have somebody in a wheelchair roll through a parking lot and onto a sidewalk. When they say equal access, they mean equal access to every portion of the facility or an entity.
And when I was chairing the grant committee, Mary Holmes gave me a name of an organization in South Carolina, provides ADA grants, get into compliance. Has staff done anything with that? I gave the contact information to Michael Seals back when we was doing the Reach Journey thing, especially for all-inclusive parks, those kind of things.
We do have some information on the park and a grant program for that, but
There are a few grant opportunities
But
associated with ADA.
anything else I'm not aware of, and I'm not sure if that was the former Parks and Rec director working with Mr. Seals.
We can reach out to
Or-
Mary Holmes.
but we can,
Just call Mary Holmes in
Yep.
Cumberland County.
And
Okay.
also, and I think also now that we're tier 1 county.
Yeah, there
with the
may be some
ADA,
more
that is-
funding.
That is
Yeah.
one of the areas that you are more qualified
right.
now than you were before.
Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah.
general consensus is to,
Just one question. Underneath the page before you, the signature page, it says optional services, and it says these services are not included in the proposal and can be provided if requested. It's on the, since the pages aren't numbered, it's the page,
The page before the signature page.
Yeah, page
Yeah.
before signature page.
Under task 4, the last paragraph of task 4.
So the reason why in past experience, when they put this in, you know that they come back later and you need it, and I'm just wondering, is this something that we don't need to worry about because it says, they're not included in the proposals? And if provided, it's,
okay, so you're talking about task
Under
4?
Stewart deliverables.
yeah, it's got optional
Optional
service.
service,
And
okay.
if you look at the last sentence of that, it says,
Table of
these
bids.
services are not included in the proposal. And
Okay.
can be provided if requested. So I just want to make sure that everybody hears that, because if we start asking them to prepare something like this, it's not part of the proposal, it's going to cost more dollars. And I think sometimes when we're looking at contracts, we might miss that one statement. And so just know that it's there. But yeah.
Well, I would ask the board to include that in our
We can-
consensus going forward.
Yeah, we can have them give us a
Yeah,
cost
include
estimate for
the whole
that.
package.
Okay.
All right, everybody's in agreement then, so we have a
Yep.
consensus? Okay. All right, thank you. All right, next thing on the agenda is Heritage Park.
Okay. So what we've got in here is some items to include in this upcoming budget year that Don and I have sat down, and we've gone over some cost estimates to include some work in Heritage Park that we think is very doable to get started. And these are things that I have also been in contact with Ms. Pat Hall. So she's aware that you know, we were going to. She's asked that some funding be included for storyboards and some other items down there. And then when we get to the museum, she's given me great input on what they would like for the museum. But what we're proposing is, of course, rough cut trail access to the creek bed. That there's no cost to that because we're proposing that Public Works do that work. Refurbish the pump house, pressure washing and masonry work, and a new roof put on. We're estimating at a cost of about $5,000. The dam gates, there is some deterioration that we're worried about because they are sitting on the ground. And what needs to happen is they need to be lifted up and a concrete platform needs to be poured so that they can be set back down on that concrete platform and there won't be the deterioration happening. That is not going to be cheap. We'll have to have a crane move the gates. The platform, the concrete platform, will have to be poured, and then the gates will have to be moved back. We're also proposing decorative fencing and signage, and I believe there's a copy of the conceptual plan for Heritage Park that shows the gate on a platform with a barrier around it and some signage. We're proposing to do that for around $20,000. The storyboards that the Historic Preservation Commission would like to commission to begin down there, we're estimating at a cost of about $3,000. Depending on how many they wanted to do, that may be as much as 6. Just not really sure yet how much they want to get started with that. And then I'm proposing a new Heritage Park sign, possibly refurbish the sign that's there and remove the piece that says coming soon. The total estimated cost is about $30,000. And I believe that that's perfectly doable for Heritage Park. And we're not biting off more than we can chew.
Will there be any cleaning of the flume? There's trees all through the flume.
We can discuss that. We did not include that in here. The main thing that we're concerned about is there's been a lot of talk about the pump house and the way the pump house looks. And then also because of the graffiti and the,
And the fences falling.
and the gates.
Fences collapsed there at the,
By the flume. The fence there.
turbine,
The turbine,
yeah.
Fences caved in.
We could include some funding for that. We could get some cost estimates. This is just, we want to get your input, as to whether or not you want to move forward with this funding or include other items.
The preservation of those gates, if the polyurethane or whatever coating is on that wood, that wood is going to start deteriorating if it's not recoated with some kind of polyurethane or something.
And that kind of work we can do ourselves, but the actual lifting the gates up, pouring the concrete, we're going to have to get some help for that.
The previous board, we talked about Heritage Park was put off because of construction of the dam, and now's the time.
Now's the time to start moving with this work. Exactly.
Madam Mayor, ma'am,
Yes, sir.
I think we put Heritage Park off too long. I think we need to take action to move forward now. Those gates are gonna sit over there, and those gates have a lot of history, a whole lot of history. They didn't let us use them after the road washed away. The gates were still working. But the road washed away and they wouldn't let us put them back. So I think those gates mean a lot in history and should be connected some way with the museum tour. So So we need a motion to move forward with this, or we just
Just
need
a
a...
consensus.
consensus.
Just, yeah, we're not asking for any
I think we should move
motions,
forward.
Just consensus.
with Heritage Park study to get it moving in the right direction. Can
I
we
agree
get
with you, Commissioner Lake, but there's something I want to add to it. And I agree that, you know, Heritage Park was next in the priority list before the golf course. It was the Lake Park, and then Heritage Park, and then the golf course. With that said, I mean, as we went through the other night with Rachel and the comprehensive master plan for Parks and Rec, we know that we've got a master plan for the golf course. We know we have a conceptual plan for the Lake Park, and we have a conceptual plan that's dated 2013 for Heritage Park.
right.
Since 2013, a tremendous amount has changed in that area. And I think before we get engaged, and this is just my opinion, I'm not an expert, before we get engaged in $29,200 worth of activities which are needed, I think we need to do the preliminaries first and do an environmental review. The floodplains have changed, the area has changed, and that's part of the master plan for that area is to review the 2013 conceptual plan. And let's update it. But let's do it the right way.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Let's do that first.
This needs to be done, and that would be part of my suggestion to town staff.
Well, I would recommend that we go ahead and just reach out to Rachel now and just include it as a separate contract going forward. That she's already involved now with the master plan and the comp plan. Let's give her the opportunity for the environmental plan. I mean, you're not looking at a tremendous amount of money. If I look over the contract, I see 4,000, 14, 50. Not looking at a whole lot of money here to do this environmental review.
Can I ask a question? Will this meet the demand of our permit for the dam, these improvements? Will this be enough to meet the dam permit, these changes?
The ones that we're proposing to do this year?
This
or coming year?
$29,000, will this meet?
The majority of that $29,000 is simply for the preservation of what we have right now,
yeah,
for the gates and
the
the
gates.
clubhouse itself.
And so what are we gonna need to do in order to meet the permit?
I think we need to
Your
look
master
at putting
plan?
a picnic shelter or, some sort of something down there. Also a kayak, another kayak launch, possibly I think in this plan there is a viewing, kind of a viewing platform, not necessarily a pier, but a viewing platform. I think if we did those, that may satisfy.
And for Ray, do we have to have the environmental study done in order to put those things there because you will be more than likely in a floodplain? Will they be required?
I don't think so, but if you go out there and put things such as a shelter, a picnic table,
Yeah.
they have to be ADA compliant, sidewalks connected
Yeah.
to your picnic table. I've seen a bunch of them. You got your regular seating, but the end extends over, so someone in a wheelchair would come right up to the end.
So I guess my big question is then, can we complete to meet our demand for the permit without spending the extra probably $49,999 with Rachel Cotter to do an
It's not
environmental
gonna be
study?
49.
Could we do it? Or do we have to have that environmental study in order to complete to make the permit need?
I think we would probably need some assistance to make sure that we are making that park ADA compliant. Because if we're gonna do it to satisfy our ADA requirements and to satisfy the permit requirement, I think we're gonna need an outside source kind of looking.
Will Stewart be able to do that, or do we have to have Rachel Cotter do that?
He does ADA transition plans, so I don't know if they do.
Well, they're gonna look at all of they're gonna look at our parks, that we
What
currently.
about and I know I hate to say this, but I just know because of the environmental issues with water.
Yeah.
What about the issue with the site of the mill? My understanding now is when you go in, when there's foundations left and places where they've stored things, that you have to do an environmental check on that area, soil testing and that kind of stuff, to verify that it is safe. And I don't know if that applies here. I just know that I've overheard. And
Some of that depends on what you're building.
Yeah, it
That's what I'm
depends on
saying.
what you're gonna put there.
So I
Yeah,
guess
and
that's
that-
the question now is
I don't think we're
what we have to
proposing,
do.
I don't think we're proposing anything that would trigger that requirement.
Okay.
I
No.
don't believe.
We have a
but-
conceptual plan that is very rough,
Right,
that the flume, the pump house, all that's a parking lot.
yeah,
We don't have a master plan for
no.
that park.
This Heritage Park plan, the plan that we have is conceptual only.
That's why we need
It's
it.
not a master plan by
That's
any,
why I'm asking.
by any means,
That's why I'm
but,
asking, that we.
and there
that we
are
move forward
two,
that way.
there are two things in this plan that I believe probably need to be tweaked or reworked or even reconfigured, because I don't believe we'll ever get approval from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to put where they're proposing. And that is this, there's a picture of the bridge that is right next to the sewer line. And then they, also too, if you'll look, there's a picture, I think we included it, of an amphitheater.
I
Maybe
took
we
that.
did, oh, you took that out.
We're not gonna do
The
that.
amphitheater was also right there where the parking lot, there were
It's in the
two
same
pictures. One was an amphitheater, one was the parking lot. I don't think U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is ever gonna allow us to put an amphitheater right below the flood,
Right, where
you know, floodgates of
We
the
got-
dam,
We got
so.
problems down there than this. The DOT on a previous board, even unknown to the previous board, required us to fill in, put concrete into the flume. So, of course, there's no water up to it anymore.
Right.
But now that one tributary is stagnant, it's a mosquito village and snake village that we're gonna have to deal with, because that water has come back up into an eddy, and there's no circulating water up in there.
Right.
And that's gonna be very problematic if we open that up to the public. Somebody's gonna have that conversation.
Yeah,
Perhaps
we're gonna have to,
this
we're gonna
is
have
a-
to take a look at
Well,
that.
do you believe that we have a phase 1, phase 2 plan that was drawn for the lake? Do you believe that if we got a drawing from Rachel Cotter, I guess, whoever, that then you could also use that to apply for grants for that area?
Correct.
Yeah.
Because
Correct,
with
ma'am.
it being pedestrian and with it being all these things that could be, and it might be something we could get quicker if we had something that would work.
Well,
Just
that's
like
why I
your
proposed
concern.
that,
Yeah.
Mayor. It's just, I think we're at a stage where Commissioner Lake's right, we need to move on with it, but we need to move on with it in a smart way.
And a plan,
Yes.
because
And
if
we
we
need
don't have
we
a,
need a master plan with Heritage Park to update, the conceptual plan from 2013. You know, what's good, what's not good, what's gonna work, what's not gonna work. That's one partner. And then the other thing is, this would be a good opportunity for Rachel to work with our new Parks and Rec director. I mean, he's gonna have some input as well, bringing his experience and knowledge from Greenville.
yeah.
I just think it's a great
Landscape-
opportunity. And
landscape
third, gotta have
design.
that before you go forward with a part of
Yeah,
Greenville.
that's the reason I suggested that
Let's go with it.
move forward,
Yeah, but I think.
find out what it's gonna cost
So
us,
let's
what
go
we have
forward
to
with the
have.
master plan, is what we go forward
But
with.
don't you think that some of the things that they're wanting to do for maintenance, we need to take care of?
Yeah.
Because I think like the
What's
things.
Yeah,
presentation?
yeah.
It gotta be
things that are
done
listed
anyway.
here.
Those things,
Yeah,
could-
I
yeah,
think if you
I
wanted
think
to wait
are-
on anything, might be the storyboards until we knew exactly what changes might have to be made. But I think the things that are listed
The-
here are so important because it's
Mhm.
maintenance. If you don't do that, then those gates and the,
Well, my recommendation, Mayor, is to do that, is
And
to
then
do
the-
this and the master plan.
Okay.
Both.
But we don't know, do we know the fixed cost for the master plan
It's not gonna
We
be
need to
49.5,
find
it's
that.
gonna be less than that.
we need to ask what it would cost us to do a plan.
that's all.
Would that not be appropriate?
Do you wanna get a
It was with
cost
the budget.
estimate from-
Yeah, we would get quotes for
Quotes,
that.
and we can
we'd
include
have it
that.
with next year's budget.
Okay.
So to do.
That's
to do
what I was
the
suggesting.
maintenance And then have us, you
have a plan.
instruct staff to
Right.
look into the cost of them.
I'm just asking for the consensus of the board to allow Drew to reach out to Rachel and Melissa to begin the conversation of a master plan for Heritage Park.
I think that's what the idea was from the get-go.
That's what we should do.
No problem.
I mean,
That's good?
it's getting to the
And then
time of
is-
year now where
we-
maintenance
Is it
on
okay
that.
to include this amount too in the, even if we end up waiting on the storyboards or,
Yeah, I
but
think
to include the
this
amounts
amount.
for the maintenance
Yeah,
for
I think all the
the,
maintenance we
30,000?
need to
Both of
do.
them. It's both of them.
yeah, okay.
Both of them.
Yeah.
All right.
Melissa, both
And
of
Yeah.
should we
got
take, should you take Rachel's name out of it and just put, to come up with a plan for it? And the reason why I say that, I know that you had someone else do the plan for the lake park. And I don't know if you needed to look at options, but I know Rachel doing the comprehensive plan might be the best way. But just don't put a name there, just put the master plan, come up with a cost of a master plan.
Yeah, I think
So
that's a
that
smart way to
doesn't
do
mean
it.
that's just a one. I think if we do that, you might open up some,
Might get a little bit of problem.
yeah.
Okay.
Because we're on, we're on.
Is that a consensus then, that what we're looking at is the maintenance and coming up with a master plan for Heritage Park? Is that good? with you?
Yeah.
Good?
As long as the master plan's initiated. I'm
Yeah,
good.
we need to get in there now and do
Okay.
some maintenance before
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
the
he's,
Yeah.
snakes
they're
come
gonna
out
do
bad.
that.
and
Okay.
the Poison ivy comes out bad.
Good deal.
We'll get some polyurethane on them, get it.
Yes.
Okay.
That'll be Don's crew doing
Alright,
that.
Next, we go to,
The-
item 8, which is
The museum, yep, and a lot of these specific items are coming directly from the Historic Preservation Commission. And then some of it, Mr. Cisco and I have sat down and priced. So to update the Trade Street Museum, that proposed location, to update it for ADA compliance and get the building to where they can get in there and do the upfitting. We're proposing to cost about $25,000. That's to do the interior design per their specifications. Then they have asked for some specific items to upfit the museum. And those include shelving displays, picture frame stands, some acid-free boxes, mylar sleeves, file folders, freestanding display towers, and miscellaneous office supplies at a total estimated cost of $50,000. And then we've included, they're going to need a sign to identify the museum. So that a new signage would be about approximately $1,200. And they've asked for money to refurbish the historic downtown signs. And I believe there are 4 signs, and so we're estimating that at a cost of $800. The total cost for all of that is $77,000. Now, they have this current year, the budget year that we're in right now, they do have money included for software and training for the inventory process. And then I've also gotten a quote for a computer for them. Originally, we were going to try to reuse someone's computer. You know, we have a schedule every year of each department who has the oldest computer. We take that out and buy new replacement. Thank you. And we were going to try to do it that way, but I think with this software, I've been in contact with our IT, and they've indicated that probably we just need to go ahead and get them a new computer. So I'm including that in this year's budget.
And this is because, and I sent this information to Ms. Hall in reference to the North Carolina now has digital history where you actually put everything digital, and then you go to a computer and pull it up, so where you don't have to have as much artifacts, you can have pictures.
Right.
Since we're so close to the fiber optics there on the corner,
that's something we can look at.
Would it be something forward think about wiring that building so that you could have a digital presence? Because I know the youth were